Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. Thanks for joining us for another stream. Better just start by checking the audio is working. Everyone hearing me okay? I've not messed it up as I usually do. Oh, where are we at? Good. Everyone hearing me? I'm assuming. Perfect. Everyone is excellent. Well, no surprises. We are waiting on Jaren. Really? Yes, we are, aren't we? Yeah, I've not received any Zoom link from Jaren just yet. He was just typing on Telegram. Don't sound too surprised, Dougal, that the audio is working. You know, there is plenty of time for me to mess it up yet anyway. Right, so the plan is, while we're waiting for Jaren, this is part 3 of the discussion with Jaren. And the first 2 parts have been really good, I think. They've been quite productive, slightly longer than expected. I know last time I said that we wouldn't be doing another 5.5-hour stream, and we would aim for 2 hours, and then it wound up being like 4.5, 5 hours. So, you know, it was a marginal improvement. Today is not going to be a particularly long one. Well, I say not particularly long. Both Jaren and I have said 2 hours, and that's it. And to be honest, I don't think it's actually going to go to the full 2 hours. Let's see. Jaren's just messaged. Give me 5 minutes to send the Zoom link. Sorry for the delay. My stream is set up and ready. Okay. So Jaren is just gearing up his side. He'll get a link over to me, and then we'll be able to start proceedings. So yes, the discussion between Val says just aim for 3.5 hours and we'll see. I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to set an alarm. Once Jaren and I start, I'm going to set an alarm to buzz after 2 hours, and then that's it. I've been up since, well, it's just gone 9:30 in the evening here. I've been up since 10 to 6 this morning. So, yeah, not particularly fancying a very long stream. The stream itself nearly didn't happen tonight because Jaren's he's having a debate with Austin. He's having a debate with Austin tomorrow about flat Earth. So he originally was suggesting maybe we could push it back to next week. But I've said today, if we just do a shortish one today, because I've got a few bits of quite a few pieces of evidence that I think will be quite compelling. But just so everyone's to set people's expectations, I think the plan is I'm going to present the bits that I've got, because really I think the thing that's been tripping Jaren up, that he's struggling with, is the parallax issue, as I think he refers to it as, the fact that as they're moving between different locations, there doesn't appear to be any change to the background, and obviously the huge scale of the moon that you're looking at. I think he's struggling to believe that that's what's actually happening, and that he's seen some articles and suggestions that it could be how it could have been done on a studio. So I've been digging through, and I found a collection of photos and footage that I think should hopefully dispel that I want to present to him. But I think the plan is that today is going to be me presenting what I found. I don't know if he's maybe got a few other bits that he wants me to take a look at. And then probably next Friday, we'll do a final wrap-up session where, you know, we'll kind of finalize everything and we'll sort of leave it where it is, and he can go from there as to whether he wants to, whether he's going to accept the moon landings or if there's still stuff that he doesn't accept about it. But yeah, just to sort of preempt everybody that I don't think this stream is going to be some sort of big reveal of Jaren's accepted the moon landings, and I just, Jaren's just sent me the link, so I'm just gonna get this onto my computer. And to be fair, I wouldn't want Jaren to do that anyway. I don't think I'd really. I wouldn't personally like myself, if someone just showed me some pictures or something, I wouldn't just turn around and go, oh, okay, well, that's it then. You know, I'd want a bit of time to go away and process it and try and analyze it myself and see, did it really fit? Was there something that was being overlooked? So I think if I just present what I've got today, and then Jaren can go away for a week and dwell on it and have a look over it and see what he makes of it. And then I think, fingers crossed, next weekend, or next... just sort this out. Next Friday, probably. We can do another wrap-up stream, and who knows, people may be calling Jaren a NASA shill. Right, let me just get onto all on there. That. There. Right, I'm just joining into Jaren's Zoom call now. So, here we go. Because, you know, when are we not waiting on Jaren? Rubik's is a NASA shield. Yes, you are, Rubik's. And actually, I want to thank Rubik's for that little piece of information regarding the Lunar rover wheel. It'll become clear in a bit, but yeah, Rubik's was able to help me confirm the size of the Lunar rover wheel, which is going to be quite important. I should probably just message Jaren and let him know that I'm in there. Boom. Yeah. So, anyway, while we're waiting for Jaren, how's everybody else doing? Did everyone enjoy my little my latest video that was a complete 90-degree turn away from the usual stuff that I cover? I wasn't really sure how people would react to it. I've never done anything regarding Tartaria and the likes before. Generally doesn't really kind of the mud floods and stuff. It's not stuff that I've usually looked into. And to be honest, the only thing regarding the regarding that Motherland statue was the fact that it was Stalingrad and the whole history behind that. So I just thought it was a good excuse for to throw out a little history lesson. Yes, he's a very shilling person, Jaren, is because he went Wented Wenting to Antarctica with Dearth and Oakley didn't have the guts to go. Yeah, that's, well, struggling to quite decode that, but yeah, I mean, he did at least have the guts to go to Antarctica, and yeah, Dearth and Oakley didn't. Dearth's just showing himself up as a complete scammer anyway, isn't he, with his latest lot recently with this whole 3 Bitcoin, 6 Bitcoin, and glow proofs. He's never going to pay. Well, actually, no, that's technically true. Dearth may well pay. I think when his endless ice wall finally reaches hell and it freezes over, then he may pay. Until then, I think everyone's going to be waiting a while. Ken P has sent donated a membership. Thank you very much, Ken. Sarah, you are now a fan of Rusty, whether you like it or not. Megaloo for 50. Is that CZK? Is that check? Greetings from CZ. Can't wait for another 4-hour stream to listen to while studying for calculus. Will be interesting. Thank you, Megaloo. But like I said, it's we're not doing. It's not going to be 4 hours today. I'm going to be too tired for it. So. Come on, Jaren. For all Jaren talks about it being 55 years or whatever since the moon landings, and why haven't we gone back? I mean, if he might as well be in charge of NASA the amount of time it's taking it. Nicky Lauder, accept it, Dave. You're not the main character here. I know. Here. Hang on. There you go. I'll apologise as well, particularly to Emma if she's still in the chat, because I've not done a Rusty stream for a while. They're just I've got a crazy couple of weeks coming up, and I just really can't afford to do a Rusty stream. The Rusty streams are great, and I had this brilliant idea that I can just put the stream on and leave the Rusty cam running while I'm sat here and getting my editing done. The problem is I then keep getting distracted and engaging with the chat, which then sort of slows everything down. Yeah, I've got a manic couple of weeks coming up with well, I'm getting married in about 3 weeks. So then we're going away for a little bit after that. I've got a week away doing work as well. So I've got a crazy couple of weeks coming up. And obviously I don't want to be trying to sort videos out through that time is going to be a pain in the hole. So ideally I'm trying to get a bit of a head start on the videos and stuff. So I have quite a lot of videos working that I'm working towards. I have a great one for next. Yeah, should be the next video that I put out. With the ISS. I think I might have found the most undebunkable ISS video. I know everyone, the 50-minute ISS tour video gets brought up a lot as being undebunkable, and nobody's ever really had a proper rebuttal for it, but I think I might have found one that is even more tricky, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody bring it up. So yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but I've got that coming up. And then I'm currently in the process of putting one together. While I'm waiting for Jaren anyway. This is what I'm currently working on here. Mute that because it's scanning through. So this is going through the Apollo 11 photos. That's one I'm currently working on now. And then yeah, I've got some fun ideas for other videos. Are we still waiting on Jaren? Still waiting on Jaren. He said the Zoom room will be open in 2 minutes. That was 10 minutes ago. So yeah. Megaloo, it's great to know Dave McKeegan is a World War II nerd like me. Stalingrad is cool. Yes, I am. It's Apollo, moon landings, and World War II were sort of really just. I've grown up just watching all sorts of stuff like that. In fact, if you're a World War II nerd or not, I often have a little. Sometimes in my videos, I'll use like a little. I've got a model of Bismarck, that I have, and I got it because my granddad on my dad's side was actually involved in the hunt for Bismarck. He served on HMS Suffolk. Houston Jaren has a problem. Yeah, he's not here. That is a problem. I'm sure, he'll turn up at some point. But, yeah. I even have, in fact, I don't know if I can get it to show or not. Just hiding up there, right up on the top shelf, I've got a couple of airfix models, tank airfix models, that I've made over the years. So, yeah, fun. They are, what have I got up there? I've got a Panther, a Tiger, a Sherman, a Cromwell, and a Churchill. Haven't finished the Churchill, though. I got distracted and then kind of forgot about it. Come on, Jaren. He messaged me because I've not actually spoke to him since. I messaged him last Friday, Friday morning, and asked if we were still on for the stream. It's Friday evening for me, but by the time I message him in the morning, it's usually like early hours where he is. So he didn't answer. I wasn't expecting an answer straight away. And then by the time he did answer, it was very close to the time for going live anyway. And he said he had a scheduling conflict and could we push it back. And by that point, I was coming down with something. I really didn't feel well last Friday. In fact, I was up sick throughout the night, so it's just as well that we pushed the stream back because that could have been an awkward stream. And I not spoke to him since. I just said we'd push it back until today. So then I messaged him and said, "Are we still on for later?" I sent him that this morning, and then he messaged before, like, I don't know, 5 o'clock, questioning should we push it back or not, because he's got this stream with Austin tomorrow, so, doesn't want this one to be going on for too long or anything. And I said, we can push it if you want, but I'd prefer to try and get it done. And we can do another stream, like we'll just do a short stream today where I can present what I've had, and then we'll we can do another stream next week or whatever to sort of finalize everything and go from there. So he said, okay, and do you want to do it what is 1:30 his time or 3 o'clock his time, which I think 3 o'clock his time is when he usually streams, 3 p.m. Pacific, but that's like 11 p.m. here, which I didn't really fancy going into the early hours. So I said, if we can do 1:30, which is 9:30 here, gives me should be able to get finished for midnight. Which, but I think yeah, I don't know, maybe Jaren's just trying to hold off and go till 3 anyway. Oh, for fuck's sake, not this shit again. Apologies, everyone. Jaren's just messaged saying, I've messaged him and said, I'm in the Zoom room. And he said, I don't see you. But I am definitely in. And that's scheduled for 10 o'clock. And that is the same. Yeah, that's definitely the. Right, let me leave that. Open, try that again. All right, let's. Here we go. Hey, got there in the end. Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, hang on. Nah, there we go. I can hear you. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. I've, yeah, so partly, well, the Owless thing partly, and then there was some other stuff sort of on the same topic, but some other stuff that I think will hopefully put this Parallax issue of yours to bed. Yeah. Ooh.
One number 3, good.
Apologies, everybody. I had Jaren muted on my side.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were live either. That's my bad. Oh wait, I need to get rid of my view here. Get rid of.
Oh yeah, unlike you, Jaren, I start on time.
Can I cuss on your show or no?
No, you can fuck off.
I'll figure that eventually. You'll notice that my name on this thing here says, I'll show you. It says that I'm a globe shill in training, so I have a lot to learn. You have a lot.
We'll get you promoted to NASA shield very soon enough. All right.
We got you globe shill, me globe shill in training, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we got that, and then I just need to. Oops, it's a Friday Unplugged sign okay up there. Yeah, it's fine, whatever. And then we just need to do the your share screen. Go ahead and share when you want. There we go. Automatic left side. Yes. Move this over.
That's screen 3 is what I need.
And that looks good there. Okay, it's a little. Let me move it this way a little bit. So the far right of it is what? Let me move this to here. So I'm just looking at the far right so I can get the whole picture. Okay, good. I got the whole thing there. So the 8511509 is on the left. And then there's some squares on the left, whatever those are. I don't know what that is.
No, that should be that 11509 should be somewhere more around the middle, slightly to the right.
So there's still more stuff to your right of 8511509.
Yeah, there's a whole picture to the right. Oh, yeah, that's just a bit of Photoshop. So
you're okay. You scroll over there, right? It shouldn't be able to be pictured the whole thing in my screen, should it? So on my screen, what I'm seeing you do is scroll left and right to see that whole page. So you're saying that you want that whole thing displayed in one picture?
If you can get the whole screen showed. It's only this is just it's all Photoshop, but I just wanted it so that you could see all the controls.
Well, show me like a complete. Yeah, show me a complete picture of something, either a web page or something, just so I can make sure I have the whole thing pictured.
Right,
that makes any sense.
What am I
So like I can picture that whole thing. It's got like a flower pattern.
Yeah, so that's just my desktop. But if I bring that's your web page that I'm seeing now. That your
Good.
stream page.
Yep, and I see the chat. Oh wait, but is the thumbnail cut off? I wonder why this is
Not on my screen.
I wonder why that's happening. It's like showing me only part of your screen. Maybe it needs to be resized. No, not your side. What is that? Control minus or something makes things smaller. Oh, that kind of works. Okay, wait, that's minus 80. Move this over. Who's moving that? Me or you? You.
I'm moving it. I'm shrinking it. I'm trying to. I'll get. Let's get it lined up for yours, and I'll move mine to fit.
Yeah, mine's good right there, where the chat is now on the far right, and the whole thing fits. So we're good.
Okay, I'll resize mine around that then.
And then I'll resize our picture somewhere in there. Okay, let me just do my intro, and we'll be good to go. I think that's it. And so you're going to do the all the parallax things, and then I've just got a few things. So we'll start with you and go from there. All right.
Okay.
And sounds good. Let me just make sure Rockfin's on. ROKFIN. Okay. I'm just going to do the intro, and we'll see you shortly.
Perfect.
Love you guys. All right. See you in a minute. I'm muting up.
Okay. All right. Jaren isn't streaming. Yeah, I've got Jaren's stream up here. I'm waiting for him to go live. Don't worry, everyone. We'll get there in the end. And maybe I'll just cut all this out. Going live, and I'm going to mute that. Yeah, so while he's doing that, hey Dave, what's your favourite rocket? Well, it's got to be the Saturn. It has to be the Saturn, and I'm so bleeding envious of people who actually got to witness that thing, and I didn't. I mean, Starship would be pretty impressive when it actually works, but now, I just need to find as well. Where's... Yeah, so the thing Jaren was mentioning, the Owlist thing, it's some article that... Is it this one? Yeah. He sent me an article on Owlist regarding parallax and apparent lack of parallax, and suggests it's proof that the whole thing was shot in a studio. So yeah, he's asked me if I could try and debunk it. So I'm going to go through some of that, and then I found some bits that I think should hopefully put this whole thing to bed for him, that it's not actually shot in a studio. And I wanted to get, where the hell was it? Apollo 17. I don't know why he insists. I get why they put like a very long intro in to give people time to join, but he's late. Everyone else is already waiting for him. Um, right. Yeah. So, Jerry, I know the parallax thing is something that's been bugging Jaren since the start. So I was already looking at a bunch of stuff to try and debunk it. Anyway, and then he sent me this article, so I thought I'll just tie it all into one. Right. All right. Jaren's just starting off.
Side of the moon hoax, or the moon happened, the moon landings happened. I'm on the side so far that I don't think that they did, and Rusty, of course, is on the fence.
How's the
or on the
audio
couch on the
balance
other.
between what you're
Not really
hearing from
sure.
Jaren's side?
But we
versus
will
mine?
get started here. Thank you for joining us. Sorry for the tardiness. That is my fault. As if you thought it was Dave's, you would be wrong in that case. It is mine. But we are here. We're ready to go. Got some things to answer from last time and some new stuff as well. Let me bring Dave on and say hello to him if he is ready to party. Let me see here. Dave, you there?
Yeah, ready to
Sweet.
ready to party, Jaren. I've been here for the last 32 minutes.
Well, we're not talking about that. So, luckily, the whether or not the moon landing happened does not depend on whether or not I'm on time. Thank goodness. might be a little messed up there. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. We are ready to go, and yeah, Dave, tell everybody real quick who you are, just in case they're new. But I think they should know it's the third installment. So.
Yeah, I think everyone should know by now, but just in case, I am the person who interrupts people watching Rusty.
Exactly. At least you know your place. It's not like you try and pretend like you have a higher position than him or something. And my advice for people in this discussion, if you're still in the discussion, many people have moved past it or stuck in it. But Dave is a great place to start to just check out his videos, because he does it in a way that maybe isn't the way some others have chosen to go about it. And it's a breath of fresh air. You can actually just sit down. He kind of presents the subject and then the evidence behind it, and then gives you his opinion. And it's just well thought out and well presented. So you should check that out if you don't like the other channels because you feel like they make fun of flat earthers or and Dave does is share that. I'm not saying Dave doesn't never done that, but maybe in a better way. So I definitely recommend his channel to anybody looking to get to the bottom of this. If you are looking for something to do fun tomorrow evening at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be debating Austin Whitsitt at his Etheric Summit. That's spelled AETHERIC Summit.com, and that's at 5:30 p.m. You do have to attend the summit, which is a 2-day event, Saturday and Sunday. And he's got some presentations. Some people will be there. I saw Amanda Vollmer and David Avocado Wolf, Tom Cowan. There's some other people. So anyway, that will be kind of highlighting the Saturday evening portion. And at 5:30, that'll be the first time Austin Whitsitt and I have ever debated. And we'll be debating the shape of the Earth and how come he does not see things the way I do. So if you're looking for that, and I'll put the link in the chat right now. But that should be a very interesting conversation. And then I know if you're a VIP, you get to do a hangout after, like a VIP hangout. And he hasn't invited me, but I'm assuming he wants me there, but we'll find out. Let me just get the correct link for you. And then also, if you want to help out with the Austin Melodome purchase of a telescope, it's the last day that we're going to be taking any more donations. So please head over to tinyurl.com/melodome1, melodome and the number 1. And yes, it is etheric.summit.com. And I'll give that link in the chat. So that's my entire, list of things I needed to tell you about. Dave, you have anything you got to talk to people about or tell them about? Anything new in your life?
No.
All right.
Not particularly.
Sounds good. All right. Go ahead, and I guess you're going to start us off with some of my issues that I had with Parallax. And then I sent you basically a document that was drawn up by I don't want to say he's a PhD. He's got some affiliation with some college, right? Is that what it is? And he basically wrote a paper where he thinks that the parallax proves it was done in a studio. And, thinking about the studio idea, I don't see very many possibilities for that. I used to think a lot of that, but now I got to go through that and I see where it would be impossible on a letter. cases. However, his idea was that it was back projected from in a spherical hanger, if you will, and then it was back projected onto screens that make the surrounding area in a large hangar that would be as big as a football field or even bigger. So his is kind of the last hope, because if you can show that to be wrong, then I'm not even sure it could have been done in a studio at all. So go ahead.
Yeah,
Wait,
well,
you're
I
getting
mean,
married? Somebody says you're getting married.
yeah, in about 3 weeks.
I didn't know that. All right, congratulations. It's not to Rusty, right? I don't. You shouldn't do that if you're
Don't
planning on
start
it.
that conspiracy, for God's
Yeah,
sake.
it's already probably started. No, well, congratulations. That's awesome. Good to hear that.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, so I do have to say, yeah. So Jaren, the big issue, really, I think, since the start for you, has been this parallax issue. You were talking about it way back from the rover footage from Apollo 15. And so I've actually been working on finding examples to try and sort of settle this for since before you sent me this article. But then yes, you did send me this article, which is suggesting to use parallax to show that it's in a studio. And I'll be honest, I did kind of have to giggle a little bit when I saw the conclusions of this, because it is basically suggesting that it's like a 300-meter square studio surrounded entirely by these projector screens, and I did have to giggle
300 meters?
slightly.
I wonder. I was
So,
thinking football.
well, I mean, so on one of them, it draws the conclusion that the mountain in the background is between 150 to 300 meters away. And considering the rover EVA footage, you can regularly see the camera pan a full 360. You're looking at a fairly big studio set. So even if you were to say 150 meters square, so I did have to giggle slightly that the your last hope for your last hope for proving this is a giant 360-degree studio, which is exactly what you and I were both accused of doing in Antarctica.
Right. Very true. Very true. I mean, again, I just want to bring up the difference to me between the two is you're talking about one camera, whereas we went, and if we just had one camera, then you know what, I wouldn't even have a issue with people saying that it could be faked. But the fact that we had 10, we had several 360 cameras plus several other cameras, and then every camera is being filmed by the other cameras. So that makes it much more difficult, if not impossible, to hoax. Now with the moon landing, I do agree. If we're talking 200, 300 meters, now you're just talking about kind of an impossibility in my mind. So again, because it had to be indoors, you would think it has to be without any kind of air conditioning, and then it just comes into so many problems, especially as you get larger. So, but as far as it being the last bit of evidence, yeah, that might be the case for me, because I've quickly realized in this discussion that that the items that people think disprove the moon are a lot of misunderstandings, and then also that when you go look at the Apollo, what do you want to call it? The Apollo record, it's so complete and so full, and it's just a lot of stuff to go through. I mean, I brought up the Flickr page last time, 16,000 photographs, and to go through that, and what you have to remember is that when one guy is doing something, let's say he's putting in some experiment into the ground, and the other guy is spinning around taking photos, that all those have to match. There's nobody's been able to find one where, hey, this guy's got the camera, he's supposed to be taking a picture, but then this guy's taking a picture and that guy's doing something else. Nope, there's not any instance of that. So it was either one of the, by far, the most choreographed perfectly situations in history, which again doesn't mean that it's not the case. But then again, if you're going to fake something, let's think about something you're going to fake. Would you fake it 6 times? It seems like it's a little excessive. It's like everybody who says rocket launches are fake. And I was one of them, for years. But now at this point, they're launching rockets every other day into orbit. So again, if it's just a fake spectacle, you wouldn't do that. You would launch 8 rockets a year, and make it a big deal, and everybody goes and watches, and it's some big ordeal. But now it's just like people don't even notice. It just happens. People down in LA don't even notice anymore. It's just happening out of Vandenberg, Florida, same thing. So anyway, there is a link. It's on the thumbnail. It's tinyurl.com/Apollo 2025. What that's for is the people who I'm sure, say, "Oh, Jaron, this is ridiculous. You're not presenting the right evidence. You're not showing them." So I've put that submission form up so you can submit your evidence, whether it's video evidence, whether it's something else that you got. The problem I'm having is everybody who's contacting me does not have evidence, and evidence is what is king. Evidence is what rules. If you don't have that, then you don't have an argument anymore. And you can believe that the moon landing was hoaxed if you want, but I'm not going to believe something if I cannot have sufficient evidence to back my opinion. I used to think I had sufficient evidence. Now at this point, I'm a little iffy. So I'm hoping that other people come forward. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, great piece of evidence, great video footage that's proof. If you don't have that, it's just a bunch of conjecture. And I've seen what happened with our trip. And what happened with our trip is a bunch of people made shit up, and they would keep going on that line of thinking, even though it would be shown to them to be incorrect, and it would be told to them that they're wrong, and no, this isn't correct. But they didn't care because they had already had their mind made up. And so they were going to keep going back to the well and just keep, no, it's fake because of this reason. Prove them wrong on that. No, it was fake for this reason. Well, eventually you get to the point where you're like, oh, you just are going to say it's fake. You're not looking for the truth of whether it was fake or not. You are just already assuming. So that's what I am afraid may have happened with the moon landing. Now, granted, I'll be the number one proponent of they need to go back. It's something that they need to do. If not, then don't expect conspiracy theories to go away. On something like that, where it's mankind's number one achievement of all time, go back, do it again. Then it's been 50 years. So anyway, please submit your evidence if you could before you get mad at me. Submit your evidence. Okay. That's basically it. I just wanted to give that little pontification real quick, that if you have evidence and you're so sure of it and you're going to yell and scream at me for, oh, you didn't provide the right stuff, the submission form is there, tinyurl.com/Apollo 25, Apollo 2025. And there's a form there. You fill it out. You upload your document, upload your image, your video. You can put a link, whatever you want to do, and we'll cover it if not this time in the future. I'll go to a Google Sheet. So, all right, Dave, you are up whenever you want to get started. I will move over to your share page. Oh, you already have it open.
Perfect. Yeah, so if I can share that.
I think that's...
Is that...
I just see that blue flower again.
Yeah? Oh, okay. You see that?
Blue flower.
Still blue flower? Why is it?
Oh, now I see 4 screens. Okay, now I see a YouTube.
Ah, get off. Right. Okay. Just as a sort of link to, this isn't actually what I was going to be presenting, but it just links nicely to what we were just talking about with the point about multiple cameras. So this is actually a video that I found. It's on a channel's Mark Gray, and it's one of 4 videos. So this guy's actually synced up. On the left is the 2-hour television broadcast from Apollo 11. On the right is the 16mm film camera that was set up looking out of the lunar module window, and then he's synced the 2 of them together. So you can obviously see Armstrong moving in and taking a picture of Buzz as he sets up the sail here. And then he brings up the picture as well. So that is in essence 3 cameras that are going all at the same time, and he's synced the entire 2-hour EVA across 4 videos, so you can see the whole thing going on there. So that's just as a side note, really, for that there was more than one camera in play. So yes, the parallax issue. This is the article. Get off. This is the article that you sent me. This one. Stereoscopic method for verifying Apollo lunar surface images. I'll be honest, Jaron, I had to read through the article, and it kind of doesn't read. You what? Sorry.
I didn't hear what you said. You said you didn't read through the article?
No, I've had a read through the
Oh,
article.
sorry. I thought you said you didn't read. I'm like, well, that's nice.
No, 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 no. Give me
This is what
some
he said. I mean,
credit.
I didn't read it, but
Give me some credit.
well, I was like, what? Okay.
No, I've had a read through the article, but it
Okay.
kind of doesn't make. I say it kind of doesn't make any sense. Um, so what this article is he's trying to show the shift you get when you take two pictures from two slightly different locations. Obviously, that parallax shift. So
Okay.
he starts off with this example, which is of a power plant in Ukraine, and he's taken a picture from one position, and then he says he's moved about 1.5 meters across, and then took another picture. And when you lay them over each other, you can create this sort of you can toggle between the two images, and you can see this perspective shift. So the way you get this is you pick one object that is in both images, and you overlay that one particular object. And then when you toggle between it, everything revolves around that object. So I refer to it as a pivot point.
Okay.
If you overlay, so with this one, he's matched up the smokestacks from the power plant. That becomes the pivot point. Everything else is moving around it. Now, he says he's done this subtraction thing. So it says the image convergence shown below. The main criteria is the most complete background subtraction, and since the distance is more than 3 kilometers, the parallax is 0. So it looks like, from my understanding, is basically this subtraction thing looks for differences between one image and the other.
Okay.
And if there is no difference, then you can deem they're really far away. And if there is a difference, then it shows up as these white outlines. So that's showing there two pylons, right? So that's showing the difference of this pylon here. All right.
Okay.
So his conclusion here with his own example is white lines show there's movement and it's closer objects. Blackness is they're not moving, so they're much further away. And then he goes to put this same method with some Apollo 15 footage, and then he shows here this subtraction method being employed in exactly the same way, and it's showing movement of all of the foreground and nothing of the background. And then he draws the conclusion that therefore the background's less than 300 meters away.
By not moving.
Yeah, so his own like straight off the bat, I was trying to make sense of it. I'm like, he's shown his own example of his methodology in a real world example on Earth, and then he's shown, okay, this means it's really far away, this means it's really close. He's ran that same thing on the Apollo 15 footage, which is his own method would surely put the conclusion that the background's really far away, and then he's just gone, but the background's really close just because. And throughout the entire article, he's put a conclusion
here.
here.
On the next one, yeah, but on the next one, you see that it does move the background, right? So maybe he's showing that there it didn't, but then on another one it did. It's not really...
it's a bit of a weird one. So he's what got me about this article and what really was the red flag for me is he's put like here. He's put in big bold letters, this finding indicates that it is less than 300 meters to the background instead of 5 kilometers. He's put in big bold letters here, the distance to the panorama of the lunar landscape cannot be more than 150 meters. There's not a single calculation there as to how he's actually derived those numbers. There's no maths at all that he's put in to say... If I were
able to reach out and get this guy, would you talk to him? I don't know if he speaks English now that I think about it. I think this is translated.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if it's... So he's puts through these various different ones, and the problem he's got is he's looking at these, well, like these ones here where there's a very slight difference in them. But a lot of the time it's one where the camera's been pointing in one direction, sort of say off to the left, and then they pan the camera to the right, and then he's looking for the parallax shift. But the problem with that is you often get distortion towards the edges of the frame, which is something when I've been trying to put panoramas together with this, you often see that you can see that sort of that twisting of the camera. So I think a lot of it is that. But then one in particular that drew my attention was, so he's saying this is what you were going on about here, isn't it, with the artificial moon panorama idea, that they've got
Right,
this.
because you have the problem is you have to have one light source, number one, right? So that's going to be difficult in any kind of a warehouse. However, if you were to project that one light source onto a screen from behind or from a front, whatever they're doing, but then if everything is projected, that would light up the area evenly. So you could have a one light source, but it wouldn't need to be like so bright that it lights up everything, because the projectors themselves projecting the background would be light. So it would give you an even lighting, and then you would have the one light source. So it made a little more sense to me than other theories, which don't work because how do you have that one light source?
Yeah, I think potentially, although it's sort of showing here and it's saying, okay, there's a platform and then there's a projector screen. But obviously, it's then a case of what's going on with, is it a 360 projector screen, which you could argue with the photos, it's not. They're just changing the background. But then there's also the rover footage, the actual TV broadcast footage, which you can see the camera panning around a 360-degree loop. So it would then need to be a projector screen that goes right the way around you, which would then mean you would need multiple light sources lighting the whole screen up. But
well, couldn't you have a lit screen from behind?
Potentially, but then
kind of diffused. It would be diffused, so it wouldn't be like you would. Yeah, that was my thought. That would.
That's the issue. That's the potential issue. But I wouldn't be able to say categorically one way or the other. But initially, when I thought that, I thought the projector screen would diffuse the light, which would then soften all of the shadows up. Which would go back to the original problem that I presented to you, which is that all of the shadows in the images have clear, hard edges and a solid black. So
would you say though that, shadows, again, it doesn't mean much, but in a studio, let's say it's the size of a football field square, so 300 yards or 100 yards square, and you had a background screen that went 360 degrees around that square, and then you had it lit evenly, diffused. So now you've got lighting on the football field, and then from there, if you had one light source, it could be a really powerful light source. Wouldn't that be able to give shadows that look like the shadows that we see?
A light source from a far distance would produce similar shadows. That's the method that they employed on the First Man movie, but they did that in a quarry, and they hung the light from a crane and something like 500 feet away. But even then, you could see off in the distance, the light was fading away because you've got that fall off, which... I'm not convinced a studio would explain it, but I wouldn't know without actually trying it. But obviously, that's a little bit more difficult. But
let's go do that.
But there are some other points anyway. So he's done some analysis on this photo, or on these two photos, and he's drawn a conclusion here that says the foreground here is 11 meters away. The background, that's the bottom of the valley, is 20 meters away, and then the top ridge is 40, and then the far back end here is about 60 meters away. Now this was, let me find the images. Here we are. So that's one of the photos there. So that's from Apollo 15, image 11424, which was a series of a series of photos.
Right there, that picture there. Can I tell you something about that picture that I have a problem with? 25, I think it was.
That one.
Yeah, just what's weird is that gully right there is 1,000 feet deep. And I mean, it's a tough one for me to Again, doesn't mean that I'm right. It just means that perceptually, and then I've looked at the video and I've got pictures of it zoomed in. There's a picture with the astronaut standing right at the edge of it, and it's just 1,000 feet is 100-story building. What was World Trade Center like 1,300, 1,250? So we have to believe that the World Trade Center basically would stand in that gully. Now, the reason I think that that's important is because if you were to create a fake set, let's say that the moon is a rock, because I do believe that now. I think that I've seen enough evidence that the moon is a physical item, that the moon is large, it's got mountains on it, that you can actually take photos of at the beginning of the night and then the end of the night, and you can show the shadows change on the moon. So anybody who thinks it's a projection or that it's some sort of a figment of our imagination or a hologram probably is going to have a hard time with that kind of evidence that you can go get yourself. But let's say it is a rock and there is a gully on there that they've been able to calculate is 1,000 feet deep. Well, you wouldn't be able to recreate that. So in a false area, you would make the gully as deep as you could, but you wouldn't be able to do 1,000 feet. So you would just do like what this looks like. It looks like that looks to me like no more than, I'd be shocked if it was 100. So again, that's just one thing that I think is one of those things that is a problem, because they could always, for instance, let's say that that is a point and people start looking at that saying, yeah, that's not 1,000 feet. Well, then you could just have NASA say, oops, we made a mistake. That's only 100 feet. And so then essentially the hoax people get shut down, and again, the science crowd vilifies well, look what happened. You guys thought you knew, but when they just did a little background and they're like, oh, we got the wrong gully size, or whatever it is. That's what I think is a problem, is that it becomes difficult to be a hoaxer if everything that you bring up can just be dismissed by, oops, we made a mistake. Oops, it's this. Oh, we rechanged that. Oh, the numbers in Google Earth are wrong. So that's just one other thing I want you to cover if you could.
Okay. So yeah.
I'm not talking about it now. I'm just.
No, it's okay. So yeah, so this is one of the images from what they're doing the assessment here, and they're saying this foreground just in front of them is got 11 meters somewhere around here, and then 20 meters to the far bank of the valley. Okay. Yeah. Now, what you often find with the Apollo photos when you look through them is they don't just take one sort of panorama shot. They often take panoramas in from one location, and then they'll move somewhere off, and they've taken another panorama. So here is another photo, but from a kind of a few meters further back. So if you look on, where's that first one I got? So that's 425, that's 424, that's 423. You can see that the edge of the rover is just in the frame there. Okay, so when he's taking these pictures here, he's standing sort of just behind the rover.
Right.
So that would have put him probably about there. Okay, so he's now stepped even further away from the far bank of that valley. Now, do you remember I think it was the first conversation we had, we hit that snag where you said those rocks don't appear to have any parallax, and I said you don't know how far away they are.
Right.
And one of the issues really when it comes to these kinds of things, and you're kind of hitting the same thing now with this valley, is you don't know how big any of the objects are on the moon to give yourself that sense of scale, right?
Correct.
The only objects that are in any of these photos that we can use as a clear reference are the man-made objects, because we know how big those objects are. So I did a size calculation for using the rover. Okay. So the rover's very well documented on its dimensions. The diameter of the rover wheel is just over 80 centimeters. I actually had it's a Rubik's. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that name. They work in, I think it's one of the NASA museums. They've actually got a rover wheel on the wall. I asked her to measure how big the wheel is, and she confirmed it was 80 centimeters. Okay. So that wheel in here in this picture is 80 centimeters wide. Okay. So knowing that, and knowing the the angle of view of the camera lens, I was able to, very similar to how I did with the Earth in the Apollo 16 photos in that video that I did recently, I was able to calculate that that rover is about 20 meters away from the camera.
Okay.
Right. So the rover is 20 meters away from the camera, which means that that back, the far side of that valley, has to be even further than 20 meters away. So the article has got all these distances. Again, it doesn't appear to actually be any calculations to say how he's come to those figures.
Right.
But the calculations that I've done based on the size of the objects within known sizes of objects within the image completely contradict the figures that this guy's provided for these images. So yeah, the article itself, there doesn't seem to be any actual calculations. He seems to just be saying, oh yeah, I've distorted this picture, or I've done this subtraction analysis, and then basically seems to have pulled a figure out of his arse for how he's got it. So, okay. But like I said, I was already digging into a bunch of other stuff anyway regarding this whole parallax issue. So there's lots of other ones that I actually wanted to show you.
Sure. What's the name of that article one more time? Just so I want to put the link in the chat for people if they want to look at it. I thought it was something to do with parallax, but maybe that doesn't.
Yeah, it's I'll tell you what, it's probably just easier if I'll get onto your chat. I'll throw it in for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you can. It's from aulis.com, aulis.com, and that's it. It's a unique webpage because it's full of people who are writing about the moon hoax, but they believe in space travel. So they believe the Mars rover's there. They believe that we're in low Earth orbit, that the ISS is there. They just draw the line at the moon. So maybe a few more people that are more scientifically inclined might go there and see why would somebody have an issue with the moon, but not these other space missions, whereas flat earthers categorically have to ignore all of them or say that they're all fake. But anyway.
Yeah, so next one I want to bring up is I was looking through some more of the photos. I was actually looking through, I think it was Apollo 16 following, the rock shower one that you brought up.
Yeah.
And I was bringing up some photos. I was looking through some photos because they actually took a lot of photos. Sort of looked like, I don't know, every couple of seconds or every minute. You could almost play it out like a time lapse for the photos. And then I happened upon these ones, AS16 so magazine 117, image 18794, then 797, 799. And you can see the lunar modules there, right? So this is as they're driving back to the lunar module.
So that was AS16?
So this is on Apollo 16. These are from magazine 117, and this one's image 18799. But there was basically a load of photos that they took.
Yeah, the link I just put in the chat takes you to all the folders, and then you can look through. There's each Apollo and then each magazine. So he's talking about Apollo 16. And then you said, what was the number?
117 for the magazine.
117. So you'll see it says Apollo 16 magazine, 117, 131 photos. Okay.
Yeah. So there's the lunar module. You can even see the flag there, and there's all the experiments they set off in the distance and the tracks and everything. I think this is the last image of that lot where they've just got back to the lunar module. But I was particularly interested.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I always have trouble with the order that they go in. Do you know, are they in reverse order? So the order that they lay them out in the number order, is that the order they were taken, or it's actually backwards?
No, as far as I know, they're in
numerical order. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think I've jumped a couple here because the rover was turning, so I've only downloaded the ones where you could actually see the lunar module because that's what was of interest to me. So again, I took the fact that we know the size of the lunar module, and then I did a calculation based on this image. It was knowing the size of the lunar module. So what I did was I took this one where you can see the whole lunar module, and I worked out that this is 192 meters based on the angular size of the lunar module and knowing how big the lunar module is. To get the lunar module that size in that photo, the camera has to have been about 190 meters away from the camera. And I then cut out the lunar module and I placed it over this one and scaled it down because when it loads, because you can't actually see all of the lunar module, so you can't really tell where the ground is to know how to size it up. So I sized it up for this one as well, using like I said, I cut out the other image and then placed on this and scaled it down to match, and then did the same calculations. And I've got all the notes here, you can see. So far photo, lunar module was 140 pixels, and based on the lens that they used, every pixel is 0.004 degrees of angular size. And I got the distance to be 436 meters away for the camera from the lunar module there. Right? So if you're then looking 400 meters.
400 meters, you said?
Yeah, 400 meters from, roughly 400 meters from here to the lunar module. And then obviously you've got the background off in the distance as well. Right. But then when I was looking through some of the other magazines, I also then happened upon this one, which is another series from magazine 116. Same sort of thing. So you've got obviously driving back towards the lunar module there. So that's 18680, 79, 78, 76. And yeah, I mean, there's a smudge on the lens or on the film or something, but lunar module's there as well. And it was then I noticed that these two images are actually look like they're taken in the same place. So I brought them in to Photoshop here so you can see this one I wanted.
See what we're doing here. Yes.
Oh, this one. Yeah, so
can you try scroll just a little bit? Yeah, there we go. Bring it over a little more that way.
Resize that. I was my bad. It went full screen. Yeah. So these are those two images that I've just shown you, right?
Okay.
And I noticed, take note of the foreground here. So you see you've got that, what looks like almost like where they've turned the corner. It's just made like a little mound of dirt there and there. And then there's a rock there. And if I flick to the other picture, you can see the same mound, mound, and mound. So it looks like these two pictures were actually taken at the same time because both astronauts had a camera each. So I think they've both basically been taking pictures sporadically from both cameras, and these two happen to have been taken at near enough the same time, the same point. So we can do this, the parallax thing that they did on the article where you overlay the images. I can do that here. So if I say, can I see that rock? It's hidden. If I say this rock here, right? I'm going to use that rock there as my pivot point. Just get rid of all of these. I'll try and make it a bit bigger so you can see. Oh my God, how many tabs can this thing give me? Go away. Close. Sorry, 1 second, Jared. I'm just trying to make this a little bit bigger so you can see.
Up on these pictures. I mean, if anybody wants something to do, you'll have a field day in this Apollo archive on Flickr. I put the link in the chat a few minutes ago.
Oh yeah, just so you know, Jared, I basically spent my birthday going through this shit. So
thank you for that. That was my gift to you. I don't know if you got that.
So there you go. So that rock there, I've aligned both images on that rock. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can now see if I toggle between them, you've basically got the whole scene is pivoting around that one rock.
Do it again, back and forth. Okay.
Okay. And I can do that for any point on the screen. I think I can lay it up for the lunar module. And I can jump back and forth there. Okay. So
take it to people next to each other.
Yeah, I think there might be a couple of seconds difference between each one because the lunar module is slightly bigger in one than the other. So I think that, but they're near enough. Yeah, but they're near enough.
So let me just say what the again the hoax position here would be. Well, this is a real scene. What's in front of them, so they would expect that to be the case.
Okay. And then
whereas so like if we were to see those mountains in the background, so if we were to find an image where the rover was very close, I'm sorry, the lunar module was very close, and then we found one where it was far away, would we see a shift in the size or in the parallax of the mountains? But usually what happens there is then we go look at the distance, and it ends up that those mountains that we see there are some ridiculous amount of distance away.
So this is, again, it's one of those. So with regards to what you were saying before about the distances of everything, and obviously we're having to use the Google Moon to figure all that out. We don't know how big the mountains are. There's no confirmed size. Obviously, Google Moon tells us how big that mountain should be, but like you say, they could just make it to be whatever. So
I mean, I guess the problem becomes again back to if we're able to just dismiss any discrepancies with saying, well, we don't know the size of that, or we don't know how it looks on the moon, then it does come down to people must trust the authority, because there is no way we can go and double check it. We can't go to the moon. We can't verify the mountain heights. We can't verify the distances. So it comes down to trust and belief, which I think is a problem for a lot of people. So that's where the issue lies with there.
So what I did was I went, okay, I've worked out based on the lunar module in the photo there. I've come to the calculation of the camera being about 400 and whatever it was, just short, 430 meters away from the lunar module, right? So I then, just out of interest, I went to Google Moon. So this is the Apollo 16 site. And I know, because the Apollo Surface Journal tells you which EVA they used which magazines on.
Correct.
So magazine 116 was EVA 3. This is the final EVA. So these are the pictures, the last sort of pictures they took as they were driving back to the rover, right? So this is the path that they drove for for EVA 3 on Apollo 16. So I took the measure tool and I measured out about 430 meters from the lunar module, right? And I'm kind of coming to the conclusion that this turn here, this little right-hand kink, could well be this turn that they've made here.
Okay.
Seems to fit roughly there, right? So I've gone, okay, well, let's say that the camera's about there then when it's took the picture, right? And those three mountains, let me get that back in. So that looks pretty much right, I would say. Would you agree? Yes. Mountain.
It's good.
Okay. So what I did was I then went, okay, so this mountain here is that mountain there. And in the foreground here, it's got, I can't see
I
that
lost where
elevation.
you are now. Let's see
There we go.
so
So it's showing around the base of the mountain as an elevation of 382 meters. And up at the top of the mountain is about 840 meters. So is that about 500 meter? No, not quite 500 meters. What's that? 380, 450 meters ish. I think I got it to be about 460 meters in elevation from the base here to about the top there.
How much? Sorry, one more time.
I got it. I think on my notes here, I've got 460 meters, which seems about right. I looked somewhere around about here at the bottom of the mountain. Google Moon says the elevation was 380-ish meters. And at the top of the mountain, it's got it as about 830. So that would be, what's that? 830 minus 380. So 450-ish. So yeah, I got 460 on my notes. I've just got 450 there. So according to Google Moon,
top of Stone Mountain.
Yeah, that mountain is showing on Google Moon as.
I have like 3,000 feet. Is that what you said? I keep getting confused with meters. Maybe you said that.
It could, but yeah, I'm working in meters because that's what Google Moon's saying. So
we can switch it there. Oh, I see now. You got 18. Okay. Where you see where it says meters, you can switch it to feet. But mine just has feet. But I was okay. I see.
Right. So either which way, I've got everything in meters just because, well, just because I have so. So yeah. And then I worked out that Stone Mountain is. Where's that there? So that's 6,500 meters from where I'd got the roughly where I'd got the camera position to be. So I brought up. Where the hell has it gone?
So that's about 4 miles ish.
Around that, yeah. So I think I did angular size. So I did here. Let's go with that. So I'm trying to remember. I've got notes all over the place here. So just
no problem.
And then size was 460 meters. Gives it about a 4-degree angular size. So.
How much for?
4 degrees angular size, and then from that I did. Where's my numbers? So I did. I think I'm trying to remember.
I'm trying to think of just how. So because the things that most people say, the science side is that things look different on the moon. There's no atmosphere. There's no. So everything's going to look different. Everything's going to look closer. It's going to look farther, whatever one they say. But it is kind of funny that we're still able to use angular size. So things can't be really changing much, right? Because if we're still using angular size to determine their... Yeah. So it's kind of a misnomer to say things appear bigger or smaller if they still have to fit the same angular size measurements.
I don't think it's so much that it makes it look bigger or smaller so much. It's more that you lose a sense of depth.
Right, okay, I see that.
Because, like, you remember we had in Antarctica, the mountains way off in the distance looked really close because there's nothing between us and the mountains to give us any reference, any sense of scale. And the mountains look crystal clear because the air was really dry.
True.
So,
but
anyway.
We couldn't pick out any mountain. Let's say we were looking at a mountain. We couldn't pick out rocks. You wouldn't be able to look at a mountain 4 miles, 5 miles away and say, there's a rock, there's a rock. It was a, I could bring up some of our images, but I mean, that's the way I remember it with my eyes, at least. Whereas with the Apollo stuff, you can see rocks, you can see all kinds of stuff on the mountains over there. Okay, anyway, go ahead. On some, I don't mean.
So, yeah, so like I said, with the, so I use this section here for this just then. So I'd done this for all of the pictures. I just said, okay, the photo diagonal size of all of the scans is that many pixels, and the lens that they used for all of those photos had a 63-degree diagonal field of view. So it was 0.004 degrees per pixel. So I've just done that calculation there that says, given the mountain's angular size of 4 degrees, divide it by the 0.004 degrees per pixel, says that based on that camera being 6.5 kilometers away from a 450 meter high mountain, the mountain should be 973 pixels high in the image, right? And then if I draw a line here that is 978 pixels, is pretty much the height of the mountain in that photo.
I mean, yeah, you could move the bottom of that any distance, and people probably still agree with you, right? I mean, if you move
it's there or thereabouts. I mean, it's not exact. You know, there's margin, there's positions, there's bits of error, but it is, you know, there or thereabouts. The mountain sizes in the photo seems to fit exactly the maths that it would. Incidentally, by the way, just while it reminded me, the Apollo 15 photo, you know, that Owless site, it brought up the very first one. Where was it? Let me bring that back up, because I forgot.
So we could also, then, if we are 4 miles away and we know that the mountain's a certain height, say whatever it was, I forgot, 1,800 meters, and then we were to know that we went a certain distance away from there, which you were able to show that we doubled the distance to the lunar rover, to the lunar lander. So then can we calculate what the parallax shift should be on that, or the change in the height of the mountain? Because it seems like you're going, you're moving a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of movement. It's kind of difficult. There's very little movement because of how far away the mountain is. There's very little shift between. You might be able to with a far enough distance, which is
right. But only 4 miles is not going to be enough if we move from, I think you said 400 meters to something quite less than that.
Yeah. In fact, just incidentally, because I remember I was going to bring this up, they did this comparison of these photos, and he was saying, this could be a projected background, and then he says there the distance to the panorama of the lunar landscape cannot be more than 150 meters. I worked it out that given the height of that mountain that appears in some of the other photos, because that same mountain appears like in the photo there, I worked it out that projector screen would have to be the height of a 14-story building in order to be a projector in a studio 150 meters away.
From that picture, you're saying you would know the height of a...
So yeah, from it was on one of the pictures, I think, or I managed to build up. I found a photo where that mountain was in the background, and I worked it out in the same way that, given how big the mountain is in the photos, the angular size of it, and going off this guy's figure that the backdrop's about 150 meters away, the backdrop would have to be the size of about a 14-story building in those photos.
Okay.
So let me bring up, because it was the issue with trying to do the parallax bit is you need quite a big distance between them. When you're dealing with such a big landscape, you ideally want quite a big distance between the photos to notice any parallax.
Let me tell you what was done that I thought was really compelling about our trip, and I don't remember the guy's name. If anybody remembers this video or the creator's name, please let me know, because I was looking for the video and I can't find it. There was a guy who he didn't speak great English, but he said, hey, a lot of people are saying TFE is fake, so I'm going to show whether it is or not using known distances between two cameras. If we know that distance, then we can then draw triangles and we can figure out whether the items in the distance, whether they end at a screen or whether they end at an actual item at an infinite distance away or a far distance away. And he was able to do that because he's counted your steps and your and Will's steps. Did you see that video where he said you guys stepped 30 times so that you knew that it was 100 feet between the cameras? And then he started drawing triangles and saw that everything came back at that Mount Rossman was 5 miles to infinity, which is correct. That the sun was 5 miles to infinity away from us, which is correct. So he said, no, it's not a screen, because if it was a screen, the screen was 5 miles away from them in both directions, right? Because we had Rossman on one side and we had the sun when he was looking on the other side. So I just thought we could be able to do the same thing on the moon and then draw lines at the mountains and see if they ended at a screen distance or at an infinite distance.
Potentially, I remember seeing the video. I think the problem is that they used the 360 cameras knowing pretty accurately how far the cameras were from each other to be able to calculate everything. So on the moon, it would require you knowing pretty accurately how far the camera moved between each shot, and it's kind of difficult to nail down.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would trust you. Like you said, you were able to draw a distance of 400 meters between those two items there. I think it would be kind of the same if we knew that they started at the rover, so we were able to find a camera shot from the rover. Sorry, I keep saying that, the lander. And then we found this picture here. Well, then we would have two pictures, and we would know that the cameras there are a 400 meters apart, which is a lot further than what he was able to do. Yeah. And then if we drew lines to the backdrop, I would think that we, again, I'll fully admit that I don't have the mathematical skills to do that, but I would like to see it done. So if anybody remembers that creator's name, let me know.
Right. So yes, I put together these photos as well. So this is one of the ones I think I've just shown you as they're driving towards the lunar module. This is one of the ones from the one that I did the 400 meter test on. So, you know, fair bit closer. And then I found this one, which was whilst they were on the way back, but before they'd managed to reach the rover, reach the lunar module. And I think this one is from a bit of a more of an elevated position, because you can see, I think it looks like they may be driving downhill at this point. So I overlaid them all to the background, right? And you'll notice for this top image, which is the one from furthest away, but I think from a higher elevation. All right. Bit of a shift there, but notably, there's a jump in the background there. See that bit that suddenly starts sticking up?
I do see it.
Yeah. So from Google Moon, looking roughly where that is there.
So you're still on Apollo 16?
Yeah. So I think what that is judging from Apollo 16 there, about there is actually, there's another mountain. So I think this mountain bit here is this main bit, and then what we're actually seeing is this far mountain is peeking up there, because the camera position is slightly higher and further away. You're able to see.
Now, did you verify just to see if we can find on Google, does it show us an elevation higher, back further from that than closer?
So
just wondering.
That's
so like
390.
Yeah, I was wondering if you took that spot.
I didn't look as to where it was, and yeah, it doesn't seem to give you much. I don't know what the hell's going on with that elevation profile. I know you've brought it up a few times.
It has to be wrong, or else they just didn't care.
I don't know if I don't know if it's just a case of I don't know. I don't know if it's.
I wonder if I could. Yeah, I'll look. I'll see if I can contact somebody and just ask them if they've got an actual topographic. I don't know why you would even have elevation on the Google Moon if it was wrong.
But so yeah, there's a definite jump in the background there, which obviously if it was a studio screen, You know, why would
Yeah,
there be
that wouldn't
background?
happen. That wouldn't.
Yeah. But the real one that I wanted to bring up with you was these ones from Apollo 15.
Right.
Right.
That's when I. Yep.
So this was, let me find Apollo 15's site because I can give you a better idea of what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I have it up on Google Moon too. That goalie is baffling to me. That one I don't get.
So yeah, so for Hadley Ridge, they did a EVA 1 over here, 2 over up this over here, and then EVA 3 this way. So I was initially looking because they took the photos we looked at earlier were taken from around here, looking down the gully there, and
I think if you click picture 2, it actually shows that. I don't know if you have the same layer on.
So initially I thought, well, where's that gone? Get out. So initially I was trying to find photos of EVA 3, thinking, could I see, because obviously EVA 3 would have been after EVA 1, so I was trying to see if I could find some photos from EVA 3 showing where they'd been on EVA 2, right. EVA 1, but then I noticed on EVA 2 they went up the side of this mountain a little bit. So from over in this location from 6A would actually give them a pretty clear view. Let me load this up now. Because they've gone up the mountain, obviously the terrain of the moon would be bumpy, and the moment you go over one small ridge, you suddenly lose sight of everything way off in the background, which is obviously then going to mess your perspective.
Makes sense.
So I noticed that from up on the side of the mountain here, you obviously get a much clearer view over the terrain. And so I found these two photos, which were, I'll say two photos. They're part of a panorama on both of them, but they're from quite different positions. So I think one of them might have been taken from around here, station 6, and then the other one at 6A. So there was quite a noticeable shift in the camera position between these. So I did that same method of overlaying the images. I've actually got them lined up on this cluster of rocks there. And you see that obviously that pivot there. You're seeing that, aren't you? Yeah.
You can so oh yeah, I wanted to see that. Show me the mountains when you do the blink test again thing. Yeah, right
okay,
there.
So I'll do the mountains in a second because this one really stands out. But the fact that as they're twisting there, you're see sort of on this one, you're only seeing the rocks to there, and then you pivot, and suddenly you can see a lot more of the rocks because the terrain in the foreground has now moved.
You're getting up higher than that ridge.
Yeah, or just because of the shape of the even not necessarily that it's higher up. It could just be. I could probably find what the hell it is we're looking at. It's that.
Yeah.
So just because it's either the elevation drops here, or because it's turned and it's changed direction from one location, it's actually allowing us to see slightly further, slightly deeper into that valley there. So that's a definite parallax shift going on.
Wouldn't that be? I mean, isn't that kind of a drastic shift for a background?
Yeah,
to see how much...
and if I now like say, I can move these to any point, and all you do is you pick one point and then you pivot everything around it. So if I set it to the mountain here, suddenly now,
oh, there you go. That's the best I've ever seen of that mountain showing.
That's what I was looking for ages, is something like that, where there's a noticeable landmark and a big difference in position between the two of them.
I wonder if people realize the difficulty that would be to fake.
Oh yeah, but I think I could take that even a step further, because within these same images, I thought, okay, somewhere from here, the lunar module's over there, right? And I saw somebody point out in a photo on Apollo 16. Damned if I can find the
No,
photo
Susie,
now.
I'm not. I'm actually enthralled, if anything. I think it's a very unique discussion in that we're talking about the greatest thing that mankind has ever done, or the greatest thing that mankind has ever hoaxed. So it is a topic of great interest, I believe.
Right. So you seeing this okay, Jaren? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So this is
Put a
obviously
little bit
two
left, I guess, if you don't mind. But that's fine. It's still fine. We can
left. That it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So yeah, this is just a one from Apollo 17. So this is obviously a hell of a big rock that they've drove over to. And I remember this got pointed out on a forum that actually, if you zoom into the background of this photo, you can see the lunar module way off in the distance. And it's there on that one as well. And it got me thinking, I thought, can you see the lunar module in the background of that Apollo 15 shot? And then I remembered that on these missions, not only did they take this 60mm lens, which is what most of the photos were taken with, they also took a 500mm lens, like a big telephoto lens, to allow them to get shots of rock formations way off in the distance and get detailed views of the mountains. Because obviously, with the mountains being miles away, like you were saying, you can't see any real detail in them. So they sent them with this telephoto lens to take some shots as well. And I found one of the photos of the 500mm lens, right? Which I've laid it there. You see that black box?
Yeah.
Is magazine 84 image 11324.
Okay.
And I've laid it over. I've had to distort it because it was taken from a different position. Okay. So I've had to just not warp it. I've just had to sort of twist, slide the tops and bottom across to correct for the perspective. But you can see that it lines up pretty well, yeah, with the background.
Yep.
Okay. So this same image. Like this one here is magazine 85 11509, which is one of the ones that we've just looked at here, right? And I've overlaid this 500mm shot. So this is one really wide angle shot and then one zoomed in shot there. If I bring up that, you can see that is the lunar module. So that's actually the lunar module in the original photo. It's just too fuzzy to see clearly. Wow. And like I said, all the other rocks and everything, you can see all the rock formations here. It's not exact because there's obviously a bit of parallax shift with the but a bit of parallax shift because it's in a different taken from a different position. But it's certainly close enough that you can tell it's a zoomed in shot of that area of the photo, and that's the lunar module there. And where did I put that 11? That's the original for it. So there's the lunar module there, and I think I did the maths for it for somewhere.
No flag, I'm sure.
Not seeing the flag from that distance away. I'm sure I did the notes for it somewhere to work out how far away it is. I'm sure from memory I got it being something like 5 kilometers or something ridiculous. It was certainly within the right ballpark for how far away the Google Moon says the lunar module is. But obviously, I know hypothetically, you've obviously got the argument of, well, maybe it is this projector screen, and maybe they did make, a photo to project onto the projector screen that would fit everything else. And, there's always
Yeah, I
that.
thought about that too, but
Um,
it seems to be. I wouldn't even know how you would begin to do that, and then have it
yeah.
orchestrated to wherever they're at. You've changed the background to adjust to where they are. It'd be very difficult.
But one last one I did want to bring up, which I thought might help finalize it, and in fact, links right back to the very start because you said there was no footage of the rover being driven, and I said the reason for that is that because they couldn't
Well, I said
use
Apollo
the
17.
yeah. I said the reason is you won't find any because they can't use the TV camera whilst the rover's driving because the antenna needs to be pointing towards Earth. I happen to find right at the end of Apollo 17. This is when they've offloaded all of the rock samples and everything, and then they're driving. They relocated the rover to wherever it needed to be to shoot the takeoff of it. But you can actually see this is it driving away, only briefly, and then it loses its signal. But there is actually there a few seconds of the rover being driven on the moon. But what I was actually aiming for is this bit. So this is at the very end of the Apollo 17 EVA. So in order to film the takeoff, they had to drive the rover away and park it at a specific distance.
Right.
Because the camera would only move at one particular speed. So they had to park it the right distance away that when they tilted the camera up, it would be moving at the right rate to match the ascent of the lunar module. So that's what's happened here. They've rover's been took the rover back to the lunar module. They've offloaded all the samples and the cameras and everything that they needed to keep, and then they've drove the rover away to the location that it needs to be. And now there is all the audio for it, but this is basically the final prep, if you will, before he goes back to the lunar module, and then they finish all the closeout and head off. So obviously you're familiar with this shot, aren't you?
Yes, of course.
The return to orbit bit, okay? But this is actually a part of a much bigger section where they've parked the camera away, and then you'll notice there.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and then and then and then he's shifting it all around, and like I said, the camera's still zooming in, and at one point I'll need to skim through and find it. But you do actually see. I think it's Gene Cernan who's doing the closeout, but you actually see him hopping off back to the lunar module as well. Just to it's more the fact that the camera keeps zooming out as well there, so it's showing the size of it as well. It's
right.
Where did that go? I really should have put a freaking timestamp for it, shouldn't I? There you go. So, they zoom it right the way out. At this point, if you watch through it, the camera's panned like 360 degrees at least once. It's looked up at the Earth at one point.
Right.
And you can see Gene Cernan, who was by the camera. You can see it's a big human and it's all there. And then in the same take, he's off bouncing back to the lunar module as well. So yes. Again, it's just another, and then this is all in the same take that they then shoot the thing off up as well. So it's obviously just another consideration that if this is in a studio, then they would have somehow had to also then replicate, like filmed all this in a studio and then have an exact miniature doing that. And then after it's left, the camera's still running, and
Well, I
it's
think people say that's a crane. That's what the hoaxers say, that it's being lifted by a crane.
oh, okay.
That's
But
what
then
that's what hoaxers say.
but then if it's lifted by a crane, you've then got like what is the confetti and foil and everything that's flying off is
Hell if I know. It looks like it's looks crazy. Um,
but
so, and then in space, we wouldn't expect to see any kind of output from the bottom of that.
I don't I think usually when you see it on the likes of a lot
Yeah,
of it depends on the
craft.
fuel as far as I know, but I
Right.
think most of what you see is like particularly on the close-up footage, you tend to see more the glow from the engine bell rather than the actual thrust output, I think.
Okay. I
Um,
mean,
like I say, it does. I think a lot of it does vary depending on the fuel that burns as well, um, and how clear it would be in the video footage. Obviously, these are particularly low resolution, so it's kind of hard to tell there if that's glow from the engine. It's not showing. If I can't tell, that could be glow from the engine or it could be glistening from underneath. It's hard to judge. I did actually there. Yeah, I don't know whether that's it's a bit too low resolution.
yeah, probably.
I did actually find. I remember somebody did. I remember seeing a video somewhere, and I'll have to see if I can find it again because they shot the onboard as well. They had the 16mm camera running out the
Mhm.
window, and as I can't remember if it's on 17, but as the
I've seen it. Yeah.
craft tilts, you can see all of the everything obviously still on the ground as well. And somebody did a comparison matching up the liftoff footage to everything else as well and showing that they also matched. But that was a few years ago that I saw that. So,
And so
but
that
yeah,
craft can get up. So that craft doesn't have to get to a certain speed going horizontally, or does it? I mean, because
no, it does.
it does. So would it need to get to escape velocity?
No, well, it only needs to get to escape velocity of the moon. In fact, no, it doesn't need to get to escape velocity. I tell a lie. It needs to get to orbital speed for the moon, which is about 3,000 miles an hour, I think, from memory.
2.38 kilometers per second. I don't know what that is. I can do a translation of it. It looks like it's about, again, 1/6 of the Earth's, if I can tell that's right. Kilometers per second, 2.38 to miles per hour, 5323, I think. Let me see if that's correct. 5323 miles per hour is at the, let's see if that's right. We got the, or did I just have that? Just was looking at something.
I will stop sharing there, Jaren. So
Okay, thank you. It says moon's escape velocity, the speed an object needs to leave its gravitational pull is approximately 2.38 kilometers per second. This is significantly lower than the Earth's escape velocity, which is 11.2 kilometers per second. So I have 5323 miles per hour.
So the what left the moon, the ascent stage, didn't need to reach escape velocity. It only needed to reach orbital speed. Very much like
Okay.
the space
And then
shuttle
they launch
didn't
from
need
there.
to reach.
Right.
The space shuttle didn't need to reach escape velocity. It only needed to reach orbital speed to reach the space station.
Right.
Once they'd once it got up to orbital speed and met back up with the CSM, they docked up, transferred everything from the ascent stage back into the CSM. Then they jettisoned the lunar module, so it's just the command service module that is then doing the escape velocity burn back to Earth.
Okay. So I'll just tell you a couple of my issues if you want to look into them and see. One of them is, and I can bring up, this is Apollo 17. Where should I put this? Probably over here. Apollo 17, and if nobody's ever been to this site, it's pretty incredible. Whoever put this together did kind of a fantastic job. This is he did a that's going to be a pro. That'll be fine for now. They did. It's called Apollo 17. Or it's called Apollo in real time. I think they've now done 3 of the missions where you can go through. It's just easier if I put it on the full screen. Sorry, you don't get to see Dave and I for a second. Gone and gone. And let's get rid of that. It's too small to see otherwise. All right, there we go. So then you can kind of go in order of the trip, with these side here. And it's basically everything's in perfectly order. So it should all coincide. But there's a couple of interesting things like, they don't have any video of the landing. So you can see the craft is in orbit here. Another weird thing, it's just, seems like it's just coincidence, but they have all the pictures on the way there taking pictures of the Earth, right? So they're basically, as you see, if we go way back here, they're going Earth. Let me find here. So you'll see the Earth changing size because it's obviously getting farther away. So here we go with a super large image, and then we just keep falling back as we drive away from the Earth. So the weird thing is that they never film the moon. So they're just Earth, Earth, keep going, Earth's getting smaller, Earth's getting smaller, keep going, Earth's getting smaller, keep going, Earth's smaller, looking kind of weird. They've got like, filters over it. They even mentioned that in the Surface Journal, blue and red filters. Then they're coming over here. Then they show these guys. What's this? Is this the Earth? That's the Earth still. And then look at, this is the next picture. So it goes Earth and then it's this. So, I mean, that's just strange to me. If I was going to the moon, there's no possible chance that there wouldn't be a picture until I was there. They don't have any picture so the whole way to the moon. So, I mean, I know these things are not evidence or anything. They're just strange things that make you say, it seems strange. You would think you would, and then they say that the craft is rotating, spinning basically, right? So it wouldn't always have the window towards the Earth. It would have the window towards the moon every once in a while. So you would just keep seeing it and just say, we're not going to take pictures of that because and then here they take a picture back at this is the Earth rise. Sorry, I did something else I was looking at. But what I wanted to show was where there's no landing. So you get, and it's still incredible pictures because like this picture here, I think, when the craft leaves, oh, there we go. Let's just see now it's landed. So the picture here, you're in orbit, and then here it's black, and then here they're on the ground. So that's, I mean, if you were to ask NASA for records of Apollo 17 landing, that's baffling to me that they would say, oh, we don't have any video footage of the landing at all. And I'm guessing they don't, or else they didn't include it in this Apollo in real-time footage. Which
there is, it's just not on that. I've got it here.
So you have, so they do have, so this is not then a complete, I thought that this was supposed to be like going in order of every photo and every video and putting
I don't know if it's every single one, but the 16mm camera they had, I've got it here. I mean, I can share
Beautiful,
share
yes, please.
Or,
yeah, go ahead, share. It'll come up on that same spot, actually. I'll minimize this. Oops. Where did you go?
Screen 3, back there.
Hold on. There you go, I see you now.
Broke it again.
Yeah, I broke mine too. 1 second, we'll figure it out. Sometimes it does weird things. What's going on here? Left, display capture. That's on there. I wonder why that went away. Because now I see like a whole bunch of extra space on the left side of your screen again. I don't know why that happens. Can you scoot it to the left?
Left?
Yeah. Just scoot that whole video screen to the left, because now we got a bunch of pictures over here on the right that we don't know why it's empty space.
Is that showing?
Yeah, keep going a little bit more. That's good. We got the whole video there.
All right, let me just reposition that for my side. So this is the 16mm camera of Apollo 17. So I think for every single landing, they had this camera mounted in the window, filming the approach. So they had it on, obviously, 11.
Rewind just a little bit. Let me just rewind just a hair, just so I can see that again. So this is, it says right there, Apollo 17, 16mm video. Wonder why they wouldn't include that in that Apollo in real time.
I don't know if they only put the photos on that one, but...
No, because, you know what, though? You made a great point. The videos are on the left. Maybe I wasn't looking on the left. They have the videos coinciding with the images. So that's how I was able to say that when somebody's turning and filming, it always matched. What I would see is that, let's say somebody's filming videos, then the other guy might be taking photos, but if you could see both of them taking pictures of each other, take a picture of the guy doing the video, take a picture of the guy doing the images. So, but I think this is, I just wanted to watch this again. So if the camera is mounted, see that little doohickey in the bottom left-hand corner? That little thing there?
That,
Yeah.
yeah,
So if the camera's mounted, now watch when it points down here. It did look like it was not adjusting its view. So that's the whole craft is pitching.
yeah,
Okay, got you. Not the camera, it's pitching.
no,
The whole, because it's connected basically at the window.
yeah.
Got you, got you. Okay. Yeah, I bet this is on. I wonder, we'll have to go back and look real quick, but I bet you it is on the left side. If that's what it is, it's so they don't have any photos of the landing, but they might have video.
They wouldn't have taken photos of the landing because they were
They
obviously
both would have been
busy
doing something.
Well, yeah, they were both piloting and doing the controls and communications and everything. They literally just had they had the video camera set up to just record out the window whilst they were doing it.
What speed do you think this is at right now?
Uh, it's hard to judge because these cameras are
Yeah, it's the
they've
10
got
frames per second, and then
they've got variable frame rates, so I don't know what they were filming in. It could well be that they were shooting at 24 frames a second, and this is fairly close
from
to
what I
real
remember
time.
reading, I thought that they could never even get more than 10, but then they would adjust it to make it 30 by duplicating the in-between frame.
A lot of channels you see some of the channels will post ones where
Up,
where
yeah,
they've upscaled it to
upscaled,
yeah.
or AI
In
did
fact,
something, or uh,
in fact, I
yeah, because this to me, I mean, just again, this is just by looking at it, that looks to be a very slow speed, right? I mean, like this is, you could, you know, it doesn't look like a plane coming into land, but I
so
don't know what speed.
I'm just watching that dot. I'm trying to
That's the
work out that.
shadow.
I was going to say that looks like the shadow of the lunar module as it's coming
Yeah,
in.
it's pretty incredible. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
look, that's crazy. That's crazy. So the problem that again I'm going to have with people is if I do base my decision or my belief upon the mountain of evidence, it's going to be tough to say categorically that it's a hoax because of things like this. I mean, you know, then you have to start coming up with ways. How'd they fake that with the shadow coming down? Now, one thing I could see hoaxers saying, well, we don't know this is the footage that they had at the time. They could have doctored this. This could be later. So that's why it's cool if you've got any of that old footage to bring up what we did see then at the time. Because, I mean, this wouldn't have been, look at that. Look at the shadow. And it's got the contact points.
That's the
Um,
dust starting to kick up.
yeah, I don't, again, like I said, this is a crazy conversation because it's either the craziest thing humans have ever done or the biggest hoax of all time. And that's pretty two ends of the spectrum. But I think for the people claiming that it's fake, we have again, I do believe that the person making the positive claim has the burden of proof. Okay, they said we went to the moon. Great. They have evidence and they have filed it and it is online and you can find 16,000 images and you can find lots of stuff, right? So they have a register of it. The record is complete. So then that
I've
is pretty good evidence. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't see that you unput that. So, whoops, where's my interview screen? So what that means is that then you have to, where did you go? I lost you. There you are back. So then we have to start asking the question of once the record has been submitted, then I do think the positive claim of saying that it's a hoax is a positive claim. So I think that sometimes flat earthers get stuck in this idea of, okay, they say we went to the moon, they have to provide evidence for it. Then once you've provided evidence, then they would say, oh, well, us saying you didn't go to the moon is just us denying your positive evidence. But I think the part that's missed is that you have to have then evidence for your claim. So I want to have evidence that that we can show that says this is why we think it's fake. And I do think that if it were fake, that we would be able to have that evidence. And it would be more than me saying this looks this far, this looks that far. I'm not sure that is evidence. Now, again, I do understand where, because I have the same position, that if you allow the answer to always be, well, we don't know what things look like there. We don't know how far things are. Well, then you're really just like, oh, so there is no evidence that could be brought. But there is evidence, in my opinion, that could be brought. I just haven't seen an ample amount of it. We can check the form, but I bet you if anybody's submitted anything, again, it's tinyurl.com/Apollo 2025, and bring it to Dave so he can refute it. For me right now, again, I'm still going to be in the position that we should go back. That, and again, will it convince everybody? Absolutely not. Will it? But it gives something for people to say. Like, for instance, let's say today I want to say that, oh, I think we did go to the moon. Well, I don't want to have to answer questions about it. It's just my belief based on the evidence, and that's just that. But if they go back, then I've got all the then I've got all the evidence that I need. Well, look, they did it, so they probably went back then, and it doesn't really matter anyway, because now they're there again. So, but it looks like SLS is being shut down, and we're going through the same round again of rebuilding, restructuring, redeciding what we're going to do. I mean, Dave, you would say that they should go back, yeah? I mean, that's not something you would be. Well, I don't think we should go back. Or I mean, do you see that it being the difference between the greatest advancement of all time and a hoax? That it's kind of important that you complete that. I mean, people recognize it's 2025. We've definitely, everything has gone cheaper. Things have gone easier. Our manufacturing is better. Our communication is better. So everything about what we do is better, but they still are acting like this is, we're not doing it yet. It takes a whole rebuilding of the whole thing. Whereas to me, I see it as, it shouldn't be as difficult as they're making it sound today, right?
I think the issue is it's really a multitude of factors. Firstly, I actually found there was I don't know if you're familiar with the channel Vintage Space.
Yeah, the girl.
Amy, yeah,
Mhm.
Amy. I can't remember her surname, but she put a short out the other day which had an audio clip I've never heard before, and I didn't realize it was of JFK in
Mhm.
1962 saying that the Apollo program, the what they were planning to spend, this was before they'd even actually spent it, and they actually ended up spending more than they were planning to. But in 1962, JFK was saying that he had no interest in going to the moon,
Mhm.
that paying for Apollo basically destroyed the national budget and a whole host of other various other aspects of what they could have been funding,
Mhm.
couldn't do. And if it was not for the fact that they were trying to show superiority over the Soviets, he would not have bothered with it. It was
Right.
purely the flexing of saying we've managed to beat the Soviets because the Soviets were beating us. So
But the budget
one,
would have been not by him, right?
well, no, it was he put forward it, but presumably the Congress or Senate or however I don't know exactly how the funding works in the US, but they have to approve it.
No, but I
But
mean, they didn't decide to go really to the moon. He said, we're going to the moon, we're going to do the other things in the speech, yes. But the
yeah,
budget for that would have come after him because he would have been
no.
dead.
So the how it actually played out was the Soviets got the first satellite in space. They
Right?
got the first human in space. They did the
First
first
animal.
orbits, and yeah, so they were basically ahead of the Americans in every single step.
Correct.
And basically, JFK went to NASA and said, "We need to be better than the Soviets. What can you do? Like,
Right.
what one element, what one thing do we have the best chance of success at?" And NASA turned around and said, "We are already behind the Soviets with anything to do with being in low Earth orbit. So, space station or anything like that, there would be no point because they were already starting from behind the Soviets. The Soviets would have still beat them to it, which they did because I think they had a space station out before America did.
Mhm.
So NASA said the only way that you can do it is by going further out. So the moon or Mars, they're basically your best chances because the Soviets don't have anything for it either already in place. they're starting from a scratch. They'll be starting from scratch the same as us. So that's why JFK picked the moon, is because it was the one thing that could they had a chance of beating the Soviets at. And he said, okay, how much is it going to cost? They estimated whatever it was. He said okay to it. It wound up going over budget, and it was a case of we either pull the plug on it because it's going over budget, or we keep pressing forward. But obviously, with the Soviets breathing down the necks, they couldn't back down from it. They basically wound up doing the same thing with the shuttle. The shuttle, the plan had been, they did Skylab after Apollo. The plan was to keep Skylab in orbit, and once they'd used the last Saturn V, once they'd used the last command modules for the first 2 or 3 Skylab missions, was when they were intending to have the shuttle to keep using Skylab. Except the shuttle was behind schedule and going over budget, so they wound up losing Skylab. And it was Jimmy Carter, I think. NASA turned around to him and said, either you increase our budget to this much to make the shuttle to that we can make the shuttle what it was intended to be, or we basically scrap it and it becomes like a research project. Jimmy Carter would have dropped it, but the shuttle had been marketed to governments essentially as a way of launching military satellites. So the Department of Defense pressed Jimmy Carter to increase the budget to allow the shuttle program to carry on. So shuttle was behind schedule and over budget. Apollo was behind schedule and over budget, but both of those had big incentives to keep the programs going. Whereas when it comes to like Constellation and Artemis, there's not that same incentive anymore because it's stuff they've already done. They don't. No government wants to be spending the amount of money to go and basically do something that's already being done.
But they've been talking about this for 30, 40 years. It's always the Constellation program. We're going back to the moon by 2020. You can name all of them that they've done. So they certainly are making it. They're asking for money to do it, and then they're spending that money, and then they're just not doing it. So
yeah,
I don't think it's fair to say that oh well, it's because we don't have well, if you don't have a reason, then you wouldn't be planning every 5 years ago.
It's not just that it's not just that it is the incentive, it's the politics behind it. You think about it, Constellation was brought in under the Bush administration, and then it was running over budget and it was taking too long. Obama came in, so obviously, which way around was it? Bush was Republican, Obama was Democrat. Is that the right way around? So obviously, complete change in political party comes in and goes, well, your plan's a crock of shit and it's costing us too much money, so we're going to scrap it and come up with something better. So Obama pushes SLS. Biden was keeping SLS in play because it was his party's idea. Now Trump's come in and gone, oh no, the Democrats' idea's costing too much money and taking too long, so we're going to scrap that.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny. I mean, it's just not an effective way of doing things. But I guess my question, I know this is not to you, but is why is it dependent on the president to direct NASA, who's a civilian space agency? I mean, if the United States should do anything, it would be get that out of the hands of the president. Because what happens is, I did a documentary called NASA Going Nowhere Since 1958, and all I was doing was showing that every president that comes in changes direction, and it's clearly obvious that every president just switches to the other one. So Obama was Mars, then or Bush was Moon, Mars, and now I've even heard talk of Trump saying that he wants to have Elon go to Mars. So it's again now getting off the moon, back to Mars. That seems like a kick the can down the road. It seems like what would happen if you couldn't go to the moon? What would it look like if you couldn't go to the moon and you hoaxed it? And it would look like this. It would look like you keep telling people we're going to go, kick the can. It's politics, too much money. We don't have a reason to go. It gets to be a little bit ridiculous. And if the moon landing hoax people are not going to go away, until you go back. So
They're
again,
not, but it's a matter of it. It's justifying the cost as well. So obviously, Apollo was a huge amount of money, but
correct.
they could justify the cost for
Okay, so what
outdoing
I'm
the
saying is,
Soviets.
so what's the justifying the cost of the Constellation program?
Well, it was so so Apollo was it's going to cost us a huge amount of money,
Mhm.
but it had the public support to spend that much money because they wanted to outdo the Soviets. Even when it started going over budget, they would the public support was there to say to sort of give the politicians the confidence to say, okay, we're going to sink even more money into this. Whereas, hence why once they'd landed on the moon and actually beat the Soviets, the public stopped caring. Suddenly, then the budget started to dwindle away. And it's hit the same thing with Constellation. You know, they'll say, okay, we're going to spend some money and we're going to go back to the moon. Oh, yeah, great. But once you start reaching a point where you're going, it's going over budget, we need to start putting more money into it. The more money you then start putting into it, you've then got the public who are going to start saying, why are you putting all this money into going into space when there's all these problems here on Earth that you should be trying to fix instead?
Which I agree with. It's just they keep putting that money in space. So that's the hard part is that they keep saying one thing but then doing another, right? So it is. I agree with you that it seems like there's not a reason to go back to the moon, to be honest. But then again, they went back 6 times, so they obviously saw a reason to keep going. Whereas they could have just gone twice or 3 times, and they said, there's nothing out there. We're just a bunch of rocks. We've already got enough rocks. But they kept going. They kept spending billions of dollars on something that they'd already done. So then once they're done, okay, great. Now they come back and I guess they're saying but they keep teasing people with this idea that they're going to go back, that they're going to have some return. We're going to return them this time for good. We're going back. We're returning. You think of all the presidents. You can picture Obama saying it. You can picture Bush Jr. saying it. Bush Sr., Trump. You can picture all these guys saying the same thing over and over again. So, I guess for somebody like me, it doesn't seem to be something about it is not true. Not necessarily saying they go in 1969, but saying there's some element of this that is being hidden because it's not. So we develop rockets all the time, right? These rockets that send up satellites, the ones that I see launching. Okay, so I get that the one that goes to the moon has to carry all this extra fuel because you got to come back, but it shouldn't be this difficult, should it? I mean, you're talking about getting a craft up into orbit, which they do every other day, and then from there it's mathematics and basically one extra big push to go to the moon. You get in the moon orbit, then you have to use gas to land. I get it. And you have to use gas to get back, but really, if you're even for me, I just don't see it as so difficult that this is what it comes down to, which is, well, we'll never go because we just keep spending all this money thinking of going, and then we don't actually ever go. So I'm in the camp still that they're going to have a hard time getting people to buy this unless they go back, even if it's once. Go back. It's 2025. We think of the cameras we have. Think of the uh, GoPros, everything. That you would just be able to have a full record, of full video record. My prediction would be if they ever do go back, it's again the same thing. Very little video footage, very little um, uh, real time stuff, and it just seems to me like, am I the only one that knows that we're in 2025? That you can go watch anything. There's anything you want to watch. You can watch somebody wear a GoPro and do it the whole time, and you want anything. So skydiving, roller coaster, standing at the top of the Burj Khalifa, anything you want to see video footage of, we can. So my hope is that they go back to the moon and bring the video cameras and show everybody that it's real. And then at that point, there is no more need to argue about the moon landing because somebody could say, well, I think they hoaxed the moon landing. Okay, but they went the other day. Look at this. And then it's just very easy. And it seems like it's like I almost feel bad for you guys that are so in favor of the moon landing that you don't even have you don't even have the ability to really argue it, really, other than just, well, look at all these paperworks and look at all these photographs. I get that. I have the same belief about those, that seems like a lot. But beyond that, what is the real tangible proof besides, this is what they gave us back then, and yeah, the scans are a little bit off the way that they came back. But I mean, I get it. I had a guy the other day that was trying to tell me, oh no, that was for something else. He was talking about our trip, basically saying that it was harder to fake with less cameras than it would be with more. But I disagreed. So I mean, I think that's pretty much all I had for this time. I mean, I do have those, but we looked at them. That gully that seems, it just doesn't look like a real scene as far as the distances. But again, I have understood now that my looking at something and just making a determination based on looks is not the answer. But at least with, let's say, the shape of the Earth, there's things that I can go out and verify for myself. And that's why I can take the position, even though I've held the position for 10 years, why I'm able to say, no, when you realize that you're wrong about something, you have to admit it and tell people where the evidence actually leads. And in the shape of the Earth, there's no doubt in my mind. It's basically a 0%. I'll leave 1% for future evidence, but there's no more question about the shape of the Earth because I've seen the evidence myself. I've seen the sun go right to left in the south. I've seen the sun circle me for 4 days in Antarctica, and those things are things that I figured out on my own. Now with the moon, as long as people are able to recognize that there's no way you're going to reach a conclusion on your own based off of no trusting of others, right? So, I mean, if that's the case, then that's the case. But I just think that they could really go miles by just returning. And I would think that they would care. I would think that if you're NASA, you would care that you did the greatest thing of all time, and a good majority, not majority, sorry, a good group of people don't think so. And it's worse in other countries, I hear. I mean, I don't know about you guys. Do you know what your percentage is over there? I heard it's worse like in Russia and the UK, that they're as high as like 30%.
I don't know. I think it's possibly growing these days because you've obviously got social media, and I think people who grew up in that time and saw it happen, I think all of those are pretty happy that it did happen. I think it's the younger generations who weren't around at the time, and so it seems quite an alien concept to have
Totally.
done it back then. Probably taking very much the mindset that you've got of why could they do it then but can't do it now. And the issue is
people who were 30 or 40 years old at that time are now pretty much dead, right? Or dying. So it means the people that are alive today, backing it, promoting it, saying that it happened, were children between the ages of 0 and 15 when it happened. So then what that kind of tells you too is this is the beginning of TV, really. Well, it's not the beginning of TV. TV, here's another thing I just want to bring up that I've said to people that I think is, if you go back and look at video footage from the 50s and 60s, it's much, much better than this. Now, again, I get it. We're at the moon. I get it that it's NASA, so it's not it's not television ready. It's not 30 frames per second or something. It's filmed off of a TV screen. I know all the excuses, but it is kind of like when they show you that moon footage, people look at it and they just assume, oh, it looks so bad because of the time. But we were doing live baseball games in color in 1969.
We were, but look at the cameras.
Right, they were huge, gigantic.
Yeah, they were massive cameras, whereas they had to pack that down into a much smaller camera for Apollo, which is why Apollo 11 looked so bad, because they had to go with a slow scan black and white. It was only in the later missions that they had the color TV ones, which is what we've been looking over the rover and stuff. But that's why they took the 16mm film cameras, because that was able to record a much clearer video feed. But they couldn't transmit that live.
Yeah, so that's where I think that if I'll check the form and I'll check Super Chats real quick, but if there's anybody who submitted anything, but maybe if you'd be open to doing this one more time, I do want to look at a couple more things, and then we can kind of end it there, and I'll kind of, again, my position still to this point is I really just hope they go back. I really would like to see that, especially now, right? So any mission that really happened for me, I was always a flat earther. So there really hasn't been anything yet for me on this side of the argument that I've been able to really watch in real time and assess. Because again, I do recognize that one of the biggest problems flat earthers have is that they've already made the conclusion. So when you do that, you then run into confirmation bias. You run into every bit of evidence has to go your way. And so when anything doesn't, you just flip it and make it so that it seems that it goes your way. So I get that that's not the right way to look at it. So I can't go into these things and say, oh, NASA's going to fake the next. So I want to go into the next mission with the mindset of, hey, let's see what NASA's doing. Let's see how this goes. And not have the position of, how do I show people this was fake, which is what I honestly admit my position was before. If something happened like Artemis, I would go through the Artemis footage looking for the fakery, right? But that's not really the best way to handle things, because then you're just you're ignoring all the positive evidence and just finding that one little thing that you can cause a crack in the belief, and then you feel like you've done a good job showing that it's fake. I no longer think that that's the way you should research things. So I really just hope they go back, because that would make life for me easy and it would be fun to watch, and it would be incredible to actually think that possibly we were going to do that, because people should recognize if we did that, then it's no question of whether that's the greatest thing humans have ever done. And so I feel bad that if the humans did do that greatest thing that they ever did, I feel bad that the world doesn't know it, or that I don't believe it. So, I mean, that's, not the way I want to look at the greatest advancement of humans. And humans have done so much, whether people realize it or not. And I know in the conspiracy world, a lot of people give humanity a bad time and think that it's been a mess. But the things that we can do today, just because of the group dynamics, right? Or like, one thing I keep bringing up is like building a telephone or building a cell phone. There's no human being on earth that can build a cell phone. They can't do it. So they don't even have the knowledge at all. So it takes multiple companies, multiple people, multiple different industries, multiple ideas all came together, and then they grab from each of them and they create your iPhone. Great, but nobody can do that on their own. So it's kind of the same thing as space travel, things like that. We have to build on what's been done before. And so it seems like they've done a lot before. So I feel like we should be able to piggyback off that and go to the moon. Because it's not like we're saying, oh, well, this is all really easy, but now the next step is hard. Well, no, because you did it 6 times. So it's not hard. It's just you need to do it again, build it up and do it again. So the same thing is like, well, it'd be tough to build a Game Boy today. Not really. Not if somebody said, oh, the Game Boy's a hoax. It never happened. You could find somebody or some company that says, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to put the Game Boy back together so you can see how it works. But with the moon landing, they just they are not quite doing that. And it just seems like by the time people think about it, they're dead. So like, if it takes another 20, 30 years, the bunch of people who's been calling it a hoax forever are going to be dead. Certainly the people who were there and saw it are going to say they're going to be dead. So I don't know. It's tough for me because I want to be open to the idea that it happened, but at the same time, I just want them to go back. I'll stop pontificating. I just think that I want them to go back, because it would make everybody. It'd be so easy to just say, "Look, here's your evidence," and when we don't get that, then you have to go back to 1972 footage to show somebody today that something's real. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. To show somebody something's real today, do we go back to 1970s footage and say, here, look at this. That's how we know it's real. No, we don't really do that, because there's nothing that's real because we can see it in 72, but we don't see it today. So that's what I want to see, is them go back with people. And even if they don't want to do that anymore, go back one more time with people and film everything so that there's no question. Because I generally, I now see why the moon or the shape of the earth is a dumb debate, why it's a dumb assumption, because what you're doing is you're just taking what you see and that's it, and not actually processing the myriads of evidence around us that tell you the shape of the earth and the things that you can figure out yourself. So that's a dumb idea, and it can be disproven quickly and by yourself. And so the moon landing is just different for me, because it's something that even if I buy into everything that we see, okay, great, I still would have the question of why we don't return. And again, you might come back and say, well, Jaron, it's because there's no reason to, but then I have the argument of, well, why do they keep telling us they're going to go back and saying they're going to do it? That's even weirder, that if there's no reason to go back, then stop lying to people telling them we're going to go back. Because that sounds like there is a reason for you to go back, or you wouldn't be saying that. So to keep canceling those missions, and then what happens to all that money? Everything that went into Constellation just, and I get it. That's why I call NASA jobs program. All that money goes back into the economy. And I think that that's another big situation that I don't like, is that the economy being the way it is, the world has to run off the economy staying where it is. For instance, you can't lose an industry like the movie industry or the music industry. You can't just erase them because everything in the world would fall apart. You need those industries. They make multiple hundreds of billions of dollars. So same thing with space. Space is last time I checked, $550 billion a year industry, which, as I've said, is more than all of Hollywood, all of music, all of video games, all of apps, all of Major League Baseball, NFL, MLB, NHL combined. Space is worth more than that every year. So I don't think people really understand that. They're like, why the lie? Why would you lie? You know, when you're talking about flat Earth. But one of those reasons could be because there's such money in it. And you kind of need it to keep going. You kind of need that money to keep flowing. You can't just decide, oh, if we tell people that. So anyway, my opinion is that the evidence is looking more and more and more and more and more like it's hard to argue that we didn't go based off of the footage that we see. There's really not a lot of mistakes that I'm seeing. Yeah, there's some distances and stuff that my eyeballs tell me. But if it wasn't for the fact that we haven't been back, it would be very easy for me at this point to probably say that it looks like we went. So I still hold on to that idea of just make it easy for me, NASA, and go back. And then I don't have to worry about not having all the evidence I need, because going back is all the evidence I need. So let me look at super chats real quick, see if there's anybody. Sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat. When we have a conversation like this, it's a little difficult because I was trying to watch his evidence. I did a poll that says, where do you stand with the Apollo moon missions? Was it 100% true historical event? Was it a leaning most likely true but open, leaning most likely a hoax but open, or 100% a hoax, don't be dumb? I got pretty much both ends of the spectrum. 46% say 100% true historical event, and 31% say it's 100% a hoax, don't be dumb. That's out of 292 votes. And the middle group was leaning likely true but open is 11%, and leaning likely a hoax but open 12%. So combine those and you get 43 and 57. Which okay, so 57% are on the true side and 43% on the hoax side. And let me check super chats here. Thank you for participating in that. Do appreciate it. Dave's Waffle House, thank you very much for the $2. I don't have my soundboard open. Sorry, Dave. From the Waffle House. There you go. Dave R says, undeniable evidence humans went to the moon. 1/6 gravity vacuum conditions. Search YouTube for University of Colorado study proves moon landings happened. Yeah, I mean, that is, again, sufficient evidence. I wanted to see FTFE. I think he said he did it or something. But you'll have to look at that again. Undeniable evidence we went, again, thank you very much, $20. Says, undeniable evidence we went to the moon. Footage showing motion in 1/6G vacuum. No clips match Earth gravity. None with air resistance. See University of Colorado study proves moon landings happened on YouTube. Anyone can verify it. Thank you very much, David. We've got Dutch Steam Machine says they took photos of the moon. Fairchild Lunar mapping camera took photos of the landing location when the mission was going on and shows progress. Check up One Big Monkey page, then source pans. What is that? One Big Monkey page? I've never even heard of that. I'm going to search that. One Big Monkey page, source scan. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. We got, again, he came back. He says 16 millimeter cameras could be set up to 1, 6, 12, and 24 frames per second. 1 and 6 were used a lot, 12 less, 24 only during the rover Grand Prix. Sometimes the camera had issues. Lots of videos online play at incorrect speeds, 24 or 30. Okay, thank you. We got Ken P says, wish you and the family the very best. Good luck. Take care. Thank you very much. And one more for Dave says, what is real tangible proof besides this is what they gave us back then, 1/6 gravity motions? Yeah, I would say that's pretty good evidence of what you're saying. That if you're able to go look at all the footage of anything falling, and there's a couple footages that I've seen that just is something random. The guy's doing something with his hands and they drop something. I don't really know how to do the method of figuring out the exact time and how how you slow it down and get a time clock to do perfect in sync. But I do know some people that would know how to do that. So maybe we could look at a couple things falling, because that would be very difficult to do as well. So Dave, any final words before let me check that form real quick and just see if anybody said anything. But beyond that, I got nothing else for today. You?
Just a couple. So Val says, puts a super chat in, says, tell Jaron to ask older people about the protests in the 70s for the money spent on Apollo. and for all the flights to stop, which I think was after they'd landed on the moon. There was then
Correct.
a big uproar to cut the funding back. Just on a side note, with regards to like you said before, that they carried on going for several more missions.
Mm.
If you look at it, I think many of the rockets, they were building them like several at a time.
They were already done.
Yeah, they were already in progress.
sense.
So when they cancelled, like they cancelled 18, 19, 20, they repurposed one of them to launch Skylab, and the other two are ones that are museum pieces now. But they were already constructing them by that point. Whereas I think SLS, they're taking it a lot slower. Versus you look at SpaceX, they've got like the next 3, 4, 5 starships all under construction simultaneously. So I think it is a political thing that NASA are being made or are choosing one way or the other to go more steadily with it. Which, if you consider, obviously they had Apollo 1, which was their own sort of negligence and trying to rush things, and then
Right.
Challenger and Columbia, which were again rooted to their own decisions as well. So I think the attitudes and the mentality towards it is a lot different these days. With Apollo, it was all military test pilots that were doing it, and it was a case of, yeah, we might die, it's a risk, we know it, but they're charging headlong, and that's why they had the Gemini program running whilst they were developing Apollo, because it was all about speed, and yeah, there's more risk with that, but we'll take it. Whereas obviously for Artemis, there's not that same rush, so they're happier to take the time and make sure. That's why there's such delays between to Artemis 2, because there's issues from Artemis 1 that they're trying to figure out. But whereas SpaceX, by comparison, are more of a taking that same Apollo mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And do you know offhand, if you've come across the information, is any observatory still doing lunar laser ranging off of the retroreflectors?
I think there are some that still do it. Well, I don't know what ones off the top of my head.
Okay.
but I
I'd
know
love
they
to
are
go there
doing
and check it out, because this last sentence on the Wikipedia is pretty funny, just talking about the in 2009, the distance to the moon can be measured with millimeter precision. In a relative sense, this is one of the most precise distance measurements ever made. It is the equivalent of determining the distance between Los Angeles to New York to within the width of a human hair. So that's pretty impressive.
I do know there's a radio observatory here in the UK called Jodrell Bank that
Yeah, I hear about it all the time. Yeah.
that tracked it was tracking do you remember me telling you about the Soviet probe, that the Soviet lander that was going at the same time?
Yep.
So they were tracking both Apollo and the Soviets all the way there, and they listened in. They were actually tracking the Eagle down to the surface and listening into all the radio transmissions as well. There's I think they've got it on their website. In fact, I was reading it the other day, but I didn't actually listen to it. They've got audio from the time of, I think it was the head of Jodrell Bank who was commentating about the landing as it was happening, and you can hear the radio transmissions going on from between Eagle and Houston going on in the background that they're picking up at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you could send that to me, that'd be awesome to listen to. So my form here, we had a couple people. One person gave a link to clavius.org. Says there's more third-party evidence supports the moon programs. I went there, I put it in the chat. It looks like there's a whole list of info there. And then NVIDIA recreates the impossible moon photos. Computer graphics hardware manufacturer NVIDIA by modeling the illumination in Apollo photographs that conspiracy theorists say display anonymous lighting. I mean, that's one of the things that, I saw that the people talking about TFE exposed the people talking about the moon shadows not being parallel because I was there and I know what happened, and I can tell when I see those shadows cross or when I see a shadow does not look parallel. I say, yeah, because you're getting a perspective view, number one. Number two, you don't see the undulations in the ground. And if you've got undulation, it's going to turn the shadow. And you're just not going to be able to see that from a viewer's perspective because you don't see undulation changes like that. So anyway, there's lots of those things that are, and I'm telling you, one of the worst evidences against the moon being a hoax, moon landings being a hoax, is the reactions to TFE. Because I've seen exactly what I'm talking about, which is people who have already made the decision that it's fake, we didn't go, where your Freemason boot gave us away. I told you not to use the boot. You're like, oh, I'm going to use this boot. I'm like, dude, don't use your Freemason tricks around here, but you did it anyway. And we got caught now. Look at us. No. But it's, that'll be clipped, of course. But it's one of those things, the same thing, right? It's where the people who know that they went, and I could see now people dismissing conspiracy, right? Like if frickin', what's his name? What's the guy's name who did it on a way to the moon? The guy we talked about last time. Cybrel. Yeah, if he comes up to me and starts bugging me, I wouldn't be surprised if I punched him. Because he's just if he bugs me enough, I'm gonna be like, dude, what are you talking about? We went, it's over, get over it. So I mean, things that I used, and I don't know if I told you this one, Dave, but this was the worst thing that ever happened to me. My wife and I were laying in the guest room bed this is like a couple weeks ago, and she's like, man, can you believe how many months it's been since you went to Antarctica? I'm like, yeah, I know, it's been moving so fast. And then she said, do you still have a lot of memories of it? And as I started, I said, yeah, I mean, I can look back and remember when I was there, or I can pretend I never. And as I was saying that, that's been one of my biggest evidences forever, is that I have a video of Michael Collins saying, they asked him, well, do you ever look up at the moon and remember where you were 20 years ago? And he says, well, I can look up at the moon and I can remember being there, or I can pretend I've never been there, and it works for me either way. And then everybody laughs. And I was like, you would never say that. And I was literally laying there and I was literally about to say that to my wife, that, yeah, I can remember being there, or I can pretend I wasn't. And I'm like, oh, shit. She's like, that sounds like what Michael Collins said.
I remember in the Apollo 11 post-flight interview, I know everyone always goes on about that and how they look so,
right.
so withdrawn and stuff. But there was one of the questions, I think one of the first questions, and some reporter said, what did it feel like being on the moon? Did it feel like you were really in a different world, or did it feel just like being in a desert on Earth? And Aldrin just went, well, there was no doubt in our mind where we were. We'd been orbiting above it for several hours.
I remember that part. Yeah, I remember that part. It was kind of funny. Right, it's just like the same thing as me. Is there any chance you flew into a studio? It's like, no. Yeah. No, there's not. We were in an airplane and it flew above the ice for 4 hours, and then we landed in the ice. So yeah. We've got a couple other people. Somebody here says, big respect for your honesty. Thank you, Julie Johnson, or Julie Juleson. Thank you very much for the CHF. I'm not California Highway Patrol money that you gave me. Thank you. And she sent one journalism gift membership. Thank you to whoever picked that up, or thank you to her for giving it. Old Mate says, Dave, is there absolutely nothing for you that lifts an eyebrow about moon landings with all your research? Can I preface that with an answer that I think? Go ahead. I'm going to let you answer
that. I would say I've not seen anything yet that would make me lift an eyebrow, but I don't lift an eyebrow immediately upon seeing it. I will try and dissect it first before I jump to any conclusions. So, for example, the Bart Cybrel one, he makes the claim that, they faked it being in low Earth orbit. And straight away, my stance was, okay, let's take that as a possibility, and let's, analyze it as such and see, does it match? And it was only when then trying to pick it apart, it was then I saw, no, that doesn't fit. It fits it being halfway to the moon.
Did you show that the second time we did our show, or the first time? I just want people to be able to go back and find that.
I think it might have been the second. I think we talked about it in the first, but never got round to doing it. But either which way, I've got 2 videos on my YouTube channel that actually break it down and show that the way that he says the camera is being used does not fit the footage, and it would look very different. Had I done a test on it and found actually it is matching what he's saying and not it being halfway to the moon, then it would have raised an eyebrow then, not beforehand. So, which I think is how you should look at it. You should try and pick it apart yourself first and see, which is, Jaren, you did the same thing. You didn't just see the 24-hour sun and go, oh, well, that's it. You'd already been trying to pick it all apart for months beforehand anyway.
Yeah, I think some of the people that are calling the trip fake are people who slowly over time realize they're starting to put things together and like, oh shit, I see what it does if it is real. So therefore it must be fake. Yeah. Which is the same thing. By the way, the last person who made a response on the forum said, if your opinion is based on empirical evidence, you can't be an Apollo program denier. In my experience, the deniers want to believe their narrative and are almost never interested in the evidence. That somewhat might be true, but it's not true in my case because I actually want to believe in it now. It would be, it's a better, people always say like, oh, well, it makes you feel better. It makes you feel better if it's fake, which I never understood. I'm like, that doesn't make me feel better if the moon landing was fake. It would make me feel better if it was real. But the problem is that for 10 years, I've been saying my opinion truthfully, which is that I didn't think we went. So the problem with that becomes once you've made a declaration like that, then the evidence to flip is sometimes more than maybe a person who's just thinking about it and says, oh, I think we did go to the moon. Because they didn't spend 10 years saying that they did not. So it's the same thing with flat Earth, is that even as I started to get close to TFE and started to have doubts and this and that, I still knew, well, if I'm ever going to say that I think the Earth's a sphere, I need evidence that's undeniable. And so TFE presented an opportunity for that. It was like, oh, well, if we go there and see the sun circle my head for 4 days, that's pretty much as irrefutable as it gets. Now, people today will deny that and say, it doesn't make a difference, doesn't matter. Of course, that's what they have to say, because it does. It absolutely destroys flat Earth. It just, again, you're never going to come up with another map. The AE map is all the map that there'll ever be as far as the flat Earth goes. So once that's been falsified, it's over. But yeah, all the people who are just making all these claims and then they get everything wrong, and even things like hearing Edward Hendry say that a cloud in the sky is CGI, and from my camera footage, which is just hilarious, and everything else that went along with it is all basically the same kind of position. And then when you tell him he's wrong, no, Edward, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that, he'll just flip to another bit of evidence. So there's never really, he's not actually looking for the truth. If he was, he would care about what I'm saying and saying where he got things wrong. So I see the same exact thing in the moon landing deniers. And that's frightening in a way that tells you, well, now I got to relook at everything that I've ever heard a conspiracy theorist claim to be the case, because if they have a preconceived belief in that, then that's what they're giving you, is their whatever they can find to make that what they're saying to be the case. And that's no longer the way I want to look at things. So that's it for me. If you want to do it again, I would do it again. It's up to you. And yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything else. I had a couple things, but I don't think the parallax thing you got to. So just one more time, you said that, oh, you couldn't find any mathematics in anything that he did. So I want to kind of follow up on that and see where he came up with some of those numbers.
Yeah, I think at one point he put some formulas in, but there's not that I could see anyway. There didn't seem to be any actual analysis of like, with the photos that I showed where I've actually got like, yeah, I've got the maths of how I counted the pixels and versus the angle of view to work out how far away something is. There didn't seem to be anything like that in that article. And like I say, the opening bit that he uses as sets his foundation is when he does this subtraction thing, anything that's really far away from the camera doesn't show up in the subtraction. And then when he uses that technique on the Apollo 15 photos, the mountains in the background don't show up.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. I have to go back and look at that, because when you were showing me, I'm like, wait, that's backwards. But I guess, Dave wrote again. Dave says, can't fake moon dust parabolic motion with 1/6 gravity acceleration and no air resistance undeniable. Yeah, if that's true, it is undeniable. I would agree with you. But now I need to make sure that what you're saying is true and that you've actually done, because here's, and again, people will get mad at me saying this. The problem with this, and this is what I was going to say before Dave answered his question, and I recognize the issue, is that let's say it was faked, okay? But the entire science community is built around it. And yeah, we know how to get into orbit now. We know the Earth's a sphere, but they just couldn't go to the moon. They wanted to say they did. They said they did. They thought maybe eventually we'd get there. Maybe we can't. Let's just pretend. The problem becomes then that nobody on the science side can actually take the position that we didn't go. So Dave would be ruining his channel. If he did that, the next 3 months would be him spending time going through that with his audience, because his audience isn't going to let him take the position that we faked the moon landing. It's just not. So it's like not possible. So when you say, oh, we made it, we looked and the gravity of the dust falls at 1/6. Well, yeah, I guarantee whoever did that wanted the moon landing to be real. So that, again, it is like, are they actually doing real research, or are they just trying to find something? Oh, look at this, and when I do it this speed, and it shows 1/6. Okay, but I'm going to show you a sand buggy that drops sand at the same rate that the lunar rover does. So now you need to tell me, I'm going to give that footage to you, and you need to go and calculate it for me and tell me why the speed is going to be the same as on the moon. Because I've actually shown people before that a sand buggy in a sand dune driving around at real speed kicks up dust at the same speed that the lunar rover does. Now, again, you're going to say it's because there's air, that the air is causing the delayed acceleration. But then if they're not really on the moon, then wouldn't we see the same thing? So what you're saying is absolute concrete proof isn't really, because if they're on the Earth with air, then wouldn't we see the same thing?
Just to interject on that point, though,
Yeah.
Jaron, when you watch the sand buggies on Earth and they
Yes.
kick up the dust, the
Sand, yes.
wheels are spinning, trying to get traction. Usually, it's when they're like trying to pull away. There's they're digging in and spinning up. Whereas if you look at the rover footage on the moon, there's not that same spinning of the wheels, and yet there is big plumes of dust kicking up. So that's the thing. You can't just look at just the dust plumes. You've got to look at everything else as well. So I think the analysis actually looks at the rotation of the wheel as well.
Okay. Yeah, I want to look at that because I think Dave's right. Though I think Dave's right. Because that's something you can't fake, both the 1/6 gravity and the. But you could fake that in a vacuum. Well, you could, but then you could fake the vacuum. But how are you going to fake the 1/6 gravity? So again, it becomes like you said, almost impossible to fake if that evidence has been thoroughly reviewed. If you want to say
Well,
that.
we saw the same thing with the bag throw.
Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, the back throw, I agree. It looked a little funky, but the speed did seem to be correct about 4.5 seconds, which is not at all what would be on Earth.
Well,
And
it was that, and it was the height, it was the hang
wind
time, and it was, like I said, he only brings
you
his
ever
arm
seen-
up to sort of here, so.
Have you ever seen where he throws the bottle of water, though? There's one. Well, it's not, I don't know if it's a bottle of water. So there's this weird thing that, and the guy's going to be mad at me for not bringing this up to you already, but I don't think it's. There's a guy who says, "Hey, I'm going to go get a drink of water," and then he kind of disappears off screen. Now, then you see him 2 seconds later, and he's holding a bottle and then throws it. And people then start asking, and I remember this being said. I was like, "What? Did you know that there's a port in the mask where they would drink from? Like a port from the outside in? Like you could attach a bottle to it and drink, but they never used it supposedly. But it's still weird that they had that port there, like an actual port to
I
the
know
outside.
there'd be a way of, I'm sure there'd be something, because obviously the
They
working
drink from a
for-
straw on the inside after, but
yeah,
I'm saying
they're
that-
working for several hours, so that makes
Right.
sense.
yeah, it's just that guy wanted me to bring that up because he said, "What about the drinking the water?" And I'm like, "Well, there's not even. He doesn't say I'm going to go get a drink of water from this water bottle." So he could have gone off screen and he's drinking from the straw inside of his helmet. That's where they got water from. But then when somebody was looking it up, they said, "Oh, here's the portal," and then they showed a mask of like a helmet from an astronaut with a little hole in the front, like a little vacuum seal thing that you would then attach a bottle to and drink from. I don't know. It's weird. I got to show it to you one day. I'll show you next time. Actually, write my note.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up because we're
Yep,
we're
I'm good.
I'm nearly on 3 hours, so.
Yep. Thank you. And I knew you were here early. So we can't fake moon dust particle motion with 1/6 gravity. No errors undeniable. Thank you, David, again. No, you wouldn't see the same thing. You don't get those kind of plumes if there's an atmosphere. No, you do get those kind of plumes when there's an atmosphere because there's air holding it back from falling. I'm kind of confused what you mean by that. You don't get those kind of plumes from the moon, but the moon is slowly falling down because there's less gravity. But on Earth, you would have atmosphere. which would cause it to slow down as well, right?
Yeah, but the atmosphere would cause the dust to you'd get the sort of cloud, like
Right. You
more
don't
like a
see that.
fog. You don't get that, which is
No, and I
really
agree.
points
And
to.
again, I still, so those are the two submissions for me asking for people's evidence that we didn't go to the moon. We basically got two people saying we did. So that's what I mean. So again, I know a lot of not flat earthers and conspiracy theorists aren't watching my channel anymore. So maybe I shouldn't expect that. But if you do see somebody saying, Jaren's doing moon landing stuff and he's not giving good evidence to Dave, say, well, he's asking people at the beginning of the show to submit the evidence that they have and nobody's submitting anything. So that is kind of evidence in and of itself to me. All right, well, Dave, I appreciate it. And let's do it again if you would. Be cool. Do one more time. And I
Yeah,
will do us proud tomorrow in the debate. Don't worry.
you'll be fine.
Yeah, well, it's a lot different arguing from the side of truth than when you are a flat earther and you're so afraid of everything because you're like, well, you don't want to. You think you're building up some movement. And you're like, if I don't do well in the debate, then the movement gets squashed and we set everything behind. I'm certainly not worried about that when it comes to the globe Earth.
No.
Like, man, if I do bad in this debate, the globe's going to go away. No, that's not the way it works.
Just yeah, it's. I mean, the key thing is, I mean, because obviously Austin was in Antarctica, has seen it, and know it's happened.
And he admits that.
How can you have a circling sun south going one way and the same sun circling the other way in the north, 24 hours apiece, but nowhere else? And I'd probably, if you want to push him on something, and unless my memory's failing me, didn't he say repeatedly while we were at halfway point he wanted to wait and see what the sunspots said because the sunspots would be a key thing?
Yeah, no, I mean his position has to be that it's the light. We don't understand the lights in the sky. That one observation doesn't change the falsification of the globe, even though it's not falsification. So yeah, I'm not worried. I think there's enough questions that we saw personally with our eyes the South Celestial Pole. What's below it? You can use deductive reasoning. It's okay to use that. We have a North Pole? True. We have a North Celestial Pole? True. We have a South Celestial Pole? True. Do we have a South Pole? I think the answer is quite clear there. But if you're going to say the Earth is flat, then there cannot be a South Pole. So, because the South Pole is infinite places around you. So there's lots of things like that. The Earth gets smaller as you go south. It doesn't expand. No brainer. There's places in South America that would be where it's actually 40 miles between lines of longitude. And on a flat Earth, it'd be like 160. You're talking about 4 times the distance. We can't hide that from people. People aren't that dumb. And the other thing is you can't hide where people live unless they're blind. So the Earth is mapped.
I'm also sure I've heard Austin on a debate at some point as well reference stellarium.
Okay.
I can't remember the specific thing, but I remember him saying, and which what stuck in my head was he was having a debate with the Glober and got brought onto stellarium, and I think it was when they were bringing up, Shane's
the new
whole
celestial theodolite.
yeah, what the stars are doing. And he brought up that celestial dome idea, and he said all of this is the data from stellarium, and now are you telling me stellarium's wrong? Like he was acknowledging all of the data of stellarium is entirely accurate. All right.
Right.
You remember when I was on the VIP stream and I showed you how to do the stellarium and remove the atmosphere and remove the ground?
Yep.
So you can just see exactly what stellarium is doing, and stellarium
Below
is the heliocentric model.
Correct, and it's got because their belief. What I found recently that's funny is that they have to believe that wherever you are on Earth, you see half of everything in the night sky. So then everything else in the world is the other half, which makes no sense. How could it be that wherever on a flat Earth? Imagine you're in a flat place and you can stand somewhere and see half of everything that there is that exists in the sky. But then the other places on the Earth all see the equal other half, it doesn't make any sense unless you're on a sphere. I mean, I don't know if you found, when I found that the sun and moon, or the sun sets left to right and rises left to right for everyone in the North at every time of season, that baffles me that I've never heard Globers point out. That's the biggest evidence to me that there is. And then it's if you're looking let's say you're in the north, I'm in the south, and we're both looking west at a sunset. The sunset goes left to right for you and right to left for me. I mean, there's no other explanation for that at all, ever. That because only a sphere puts people diametrically in different positions that causes, again, the sun's not even moving. It's us that's spinning, causing us to see different things.
And you're north of the tropic, aren't you? I'm certainly north of the tropic. And we see the sun north of us, or, well, northeast, northwest.
Right.
People south of the tropics see the sun south of them.
Correct. Yeah, it's crazy, right? And then but that's the same, we're talking about the same sunset. So it's a paradox on flat Earth that I never noticed before. And the paradox is, can two people looking the same direction see an item that's going one way in two different directions? No, that's a paradox. But on a globe Earth, it's not a paradox, because you ask that same question, you say, well, yes, if one of the people was upside down versus the other, there's your answer. One of the persons is upside down versus the other. So I think that there's enough that there shouldn't be a question anymore about the shape of the Earth. I really wish that flat earthers just said, okay, we're wrong. That's fine. We'll continue to research it, and let's move forward with other conspiracies and just move past it. And as a human race, we accept that we already know the shape of the Earth, and that will never change. Now, does it mean that we know everything about the galaxy and we went to the moon and we know the distance of the sun? I wouldn't even go there. But we know the Earth's a sphere. So start there and then learn what you can from that. Addicted to Globing says, got here late, Jaron. Missed the meat and potatoes of all the discussion. Here's a little support because I can. Thank you very much for that. All right, Dave, thank you. I don't want to keep you longer. I know you're getting late and you got to get to bed. What year were you born? Are you older than me or younger than me?
How old are you?
You 70s? 45?
No, Christ, no.
Okay.
I know I'm going grey, but I'm not that bad.
Wow. So you're under 40?
Yeah.
No. Are you really? Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, sorry. I didn't mean you look older or anything. I look at you as an elder now. I'm a shill in training. I'm a shill in training. So I just look at my superior as older than. Guess I got that wrong. All right. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you being here.
All right. Well, we'll try and sort another one out. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do another one. Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Dave McKeegan, everybody. Let me end.
There's Rusty. Yes, he's enthralled in it, you can see. Oof. There we go. He was riveted by that whole discussion. Okay. Well, Jaron does like to talk a bit, doesn't he? But yeah, I think that was pretty good. I'm sorry, I'm overheating in this room. It's been really muggy here, but I've had to shut the windows because the road noise and stuff probably would have been a pain. In fact, I'm just gonna go and open a window. And now I've disturbed the dog. There may be some background noise. I will apologise if there is, but yeah, I'm mindful of Rusty overheating as well. Right, so yeah, I was excited to do that stream because I knew Jaron had issues with. You are hot, aren't you, dog? Yes, you are. I know. Oh, he's down. He's off. A bit warm. I can always tell when he's hot. He climbs down. He does that sometimes when I'm filming. Yeah, you're warm, mate. We'll get out of here in a minute. That was the one I was kind of looking forward to with Jaron because I knew the whole parallax issue was something that was bothering him, and I knew those examples and just the distances for everything. And so when I'd managed to find those photos where you can clearly see the parallax in the distance, and you've got known sized markers to work out distances and the likes, I thought that should hopefully be, I think, a key one, particularly that Apollo 15 one. I could not believe that I looked out and found that the 500mm shot of the lunar module from whatever it was, like several miles away. I think it said on the Apollo Surface Journal, in fact, because it was Dave Scott that took that photo. He took 2 of them, and he said, I think it said that those were Dave Scott's favorite photos from all the photos taken on that he took on Apollo 15 was that one, because that was, you know, being able to see something of a known size miles off in the distance. So let's get through these super chats, and then I need to go to bed, and I really need to pee. Emma, member for 3 months, with little emojis of Rusty, who is, yeah, he heard his name and now he's banging his tail. Megalo, we did that one. Ken P sent a membership, I believe I mentioned that. It's a Rubik's has become a fan of Rusty. Thank you, Rubik's. Val, member for 3 months, says, people, stop reminding Dave about the time. We all like it when he forgets and goes on for 6 hours. I told you I was not doing 6 hours. I think the discussion with Jaren was about 2.5 hours. I'd actually wrapped up my bit way beforehand, but, you know, then Jaren got monologuing. Mr. Toffee's member for 3 months says, congratulations, Dave. Thank you. And then Emma for €10 says, whoa, congratulations. Thank you very much, Emma. Jim Daniels has become a member of Rusty's fans as well. Val for £5 says, we should let Jaren sort the timing for the next moon landings. I think the apocalypse will have ended, will have arrived before Jaren gets us landing on the moon. Val for £2. Let's celebrate the 20th of July with a nice long video. 20th of July? What's going on the 20th of July? I'll be busy on the 20th of July, I think. I think that's when I'm working away. Val, £5, says, so where is Jaren on the moon landings now? Seems he is with us, but just to check. I think it's one of those that he's not said, he's not like kind of at least publicly accepted it. But I think many of the points that he had and many of the hurdles that he had that were making him think it was fake are being knocked down. So whether he's got any left realistically, or whether he's just clinging to this why haven't we gone back malarkey, but you know, kind of not going back doesn't mean we didn't go in the first place, so we just need to kind of break that barrier and distinguish those as two different things. But maybe that'll be for the next week's or whenever we do it. Jay Donacci, $10, says, pull Jarenism little more into reality and make him a moon landing believer. Some of the moon landings are sketchy, but the US government's all about money. To fake all of that wouldn't be very unprofitable. I'd be interested to know which ones you think are sketchy, because I've not seen anything that is sketchy, particularly not with the sheer amount of photos and footage that, like I say, you can match them all up. I mean, there's channels like Lunar Module 5 that have literally spent the time to take all the footage and take all the photos and the audio transcripts and match everything together, and you think that's nothing sketchy about that. Jay Donacci for another $2 says, oops, I meant to say it wouldn't be very profitable. Julie Juleson's gifts 1 membership. Thank you, Julie. And then Val gifts a membership as well. Tori Hanzo for 100 sec says, congrats, belated happy birthdays and greetings to Rusty the doggy, who is still flaked out on the floor. Val, £5. Do you have any pictures of the buggy being folded into the lunar module? Somewhere I remember seeing it. Lunar rover folded. Yes. Where's my screen share gone? There we go. So... Yep. Should have made that bigger. So that's it. that's already folded up and they're installing it. And I think there's another one there as well. So that's the thing, there's so much documentation, so many photos. Apollo Surface Journal is great for it because they've not only got the image libraries for the actual missions, but they have so many photos and videos from all the preparation as well. They've got all the PDF documents, the pre-flight analysis, the pre-flight documents, all the post-flight analysis. They've got so much. It's a hell of an archive. Then Julie gifts 2 more memberships. Jim Daniels, $10. We've been to the moon 6 times. Why go back for no reason other than to prove to doubters we were there? Did we not get enough rocks and experiments done then? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and it's a case of there's not the urgency to go back. Very much like there was multiple expeditions back in the early 1900s to trek to the South Pole. Once they made it, nothing. There wasn't that same urgency to do a trek across Antarctica. And when there was, it wasn't just a case of, okay, well, we're just going to repeat what got done 50 years ago and we're going to trek to the South Pole and then trek back to where we started. It was, okay, let's make it let's do something that's not been done before, which is what's going to be happening with the moon. They're not just going to go, okay, well, let's go just land back in a place we've already been. It'll be, we want to go and look somewhere else, i.e. near the poles. And we don't just want to spend all this money to put 2 people on the surface for a few hours, pick up a few rocks. It's going to be a case of we want to be able to put more people there, and we want them to be there for longer, and we want a way of resupplying them while they're there. And yeah, it's a much more complicated project that's going to be, it's not just a case of repeat Apollo, because who the hell wants to do that? Julie gifts another membership. Thank you very much, Julie. And then Sarah for £5 says, if Jaren wants to know if it's speeded up, if Jaren wants to know if he's speeded the film up enough for the hammer drop, just drop a hammer from the same height until the right speed. Yes, thank you, Sarah. Sorry I didn't get that to put to him, but yes, Dougal, the poles have been to the moon. Right, everybody. So that is discussion number 3 over and done with Jaren. So we're going to aim to do another discussion possibly next Friday. We'll see how things pan out. Where, if there's any last few bits that he wants to go over, and he's now got a week to be able to go through the stuff that I presented him today to see if he's got anything to explain it. And who knows, maybe by next week he will be a NASA shill. I'm going to sign off because, like I say, I need the toilet, I need bed, Rusty needs to cool down. I might stream tomorrow. I don't know. I may have a surprise. I don't know. But I don't want to say any more than that just because I might not happen. So with that, I am going to bid you all a good night, and we will see you in the next stream.
Rusty sits atop his big red chair, casting out looks without a care, with his sidekick Dave close at hand, teaching us about the globe. Sunspots or the new space probe, the daring duo will make their stand. Rusty lies in his big red chair, belly rubs legs up in the air. It's a clever ruse to be sure. He may look sleepy, rejected. So many of them to be corrected. Rusty sleeps in his big red chair. Those floppy ears still hear, I swear. He dreams of conspiracies to come. Dave leaves him be, he knows the score. It's action that this hound lives for, and his foes must all eventually succumb. Rusty has a nose for facts, a science-based directive. Battling conspiracy theories like a true canine detective. He can't be denied. So many have tried, so many have failed and ended up dejected. Just like the fish John West rejected. So many of them to be corrected. Yeah, too many of them to be